Steve, I'm sorry. Don't forget your mic.
Is this on? And hello, by the way. On, I just say. What is this?
Chief of the Westport Fire Department called me back.
Oh,
Great experience in Manitou and Mitchell.
cool.
Very good. If you got any questions, you heard his phone. And nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Do I have to make a motion to move the agenda around? Huh? Okay, it's 7:01. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is February 6th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. We have myself, First Selectwoman Tara Carr, present, Selectman Harry Shaker, and Selectman Steve Dunn with us this evening, as well as Marcia Marion, our controller, Dennis Kukinos, our town attorney. If everybody would please stand, remove your cover, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to move our recognition before public comment this evening.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion on
None.
that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a special guest this evening, and I really did want to put him at the front of the agenda because this is something that's been long overdue. We have Nicholas Perry with us tonight, so if you wouldn't mind, please coming forward. Nick is a new resident to the town of Brookfield. I'll let you tell your own story in just a second, but Nick, back in November, and we were just saying how quickly the time has gone by, but many of you may have heard or read in the paper or saw on social media that Nick was the brave individual who actually sacrificed his own life to save another in a burning car fire. So I want to start first with a huge round of applause. And thank you for being here tonight. There's two things that I want to present to you on behalf of the governor of the state of Connecticut and on behalf of the town of Connecticut, or Brookfield, excuse me. And we also have our own fire chief here, and I'm not sure if the other selectmen would like to say something, but I really did just think it was so important to have you come this evening. Thank you for taking the time out because of strong individuals like yourself who just demonstrate bravery at no cost. It really does make the world a better place, and we certainly could use more people like you. So,
Thank you very much.
without further ado, I'll present the certificates, and then, where'd Andy go? There he is. So I'll start with the governors, because that's the most important. On behalf of the state of Connecticut, I, Ned Lamont, Governor, take great pleasure in recognizing Nicholas Perry Jr. On the morning of Saturday, November 26, 2022, you courageously saved the life of a young woman from a fiery car wreck very early in the morning on Route 7 near Junction Road in Brookfield, Connecticut. As an off-duty firefighter from White Plains, a resident of Brookfield, you quickly put your skills and expertise to swift action upon noticing the accident, removing the badly injured female driver from the damaged vehicle, which soon became engulfed in flames. You put aside your own well-being and risked grave injury to help someone in mortal danger. Were it not for your measure of selfless bravery, the outcome of this incident could have been very different. Your actions, resolve, and quick thinking in this moment of adversity are to be exceptionally commended and are deserving of the highest praise. I congratulate you in this moment of recognition. Your display of character to save the life of a fellow citizen is a true testament to the extraordinary deeds that people are capable of achieving in moments of crisis. The people of Connecticut thank you for your display of outstanding inspiration, altruism. Therefore, I, Ned Lamont, Governor of the state of Connecticut, do hereby officially convey honor recognition upon Nicholas Perry Jr. in the state of Connecticut, signed Governor Ned Lamont. And this is not the original. We will get to you. It should be here tomorrow. Literally,
that's
it
fine.
did not make it in time for this ceremony.
Thank
But
you so much.
that's on behalf of the governor. And then here's ours from the town, which isn't quite as nice, but it is a little certificate nonetheless. Certificate of recognition to Nicholas Perry Jr., February 6, 2023. It is with the greatest amount of appreciation and gratitude that we honor Nicholas Perry Jr. in recognition of your courageous and life-saving rescue at the scene of a motor vehicle crash and fire on the morning of November 26, 2022 in Brookfield, Connecticut. You put yourself in harm's way to save another human life with dedication and courage. We are eternally grateful for this. Your sense of selflessness and ability to make a split-moment decision saved the life of another. Your acts exhibited the truest sense of the word hero. The town of Brookfield recognizes with great honor and appreciation for your commendable and devoted service. Never forget the difference you make every single day. You are appreciated beyond measure. On behalf of the town of Brookfield, we thank you for your bravery. Signed, myself.
Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you.
thank you. I'll take that with you, but Andy, if you want to
Yeah.
say a few words.
Absolutely. First of all, again, thank you very much, Nick. You saved a life that morning. You also probably saved some of our members from getting hurt or killed because they would have had to gone in and attempted a rescue. So not only did you save that young woman's life, but as you know, being a brother firefighter, you saved our members from getting hurt or killed that morning because they would have gone in after her. So I appreciate that personally. I was there 90 seconds behind you. There's nothing that I could have done to save her life. It was definitely seconds that mattered, and you stepped up. It goes the old saying, firemen are always firemen, never off duty. Nick will be joining us in a month or two, right? He's going to join the volunteer firehouse. Again, we were inundated with people all over the country. It was a feel-good story. It's good for the country. It's good for the fire service. It's good for Brookfield, and it was good for that young lady. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much.
You know, you got a whole bunch of new friends out of this,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
you know, we're really proud of you. That Brookfield. I'm born and raised here. I never left the zip code in my whole life, and you know, I'm like you. I'm on the job, and what you did was a testament to the fire service and humanity. And you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
I
We'll
just
have
like,
one more fireman to join us.
I love it.
I just like to say thank you,
Thank you very much, sir.
and thank you for coming to Brookfield. Really appreciate
It's
it.
been a good 4 years so far.
You really are a
Thank
hero
you
to
so
me.
much.
One more to
Thank
add to
you.
my list. I'm
Thank
honored
you.
to know you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
The
Thank
one
you
thing
so
I'd like
much.
to say is, you know, I know a lot of us have been in possibly a dangerous situation or near accident, but to think of putting your life on the line and, you know, we complain a lot. I complain a lot, but we have so much to be thankful for. And very high on the list is the protection that our services give us. And, you know, I can't thank you enough, not only for this action, but just for being willing to do this as a living. And we are very proud of you, and we're very fortunate to have the people protecting us that we have. So.
You know, his coat, and a lot of people know this. I saw it. He burnt his jacket right off himself. His coat caught fire. He was on fire in the car. That's you know, and he didn't give up. And to me, that's tremendous. These people, I know you and I have, when we work at work and we have the budget people and we're always at battles.
Right.
These are our biggest fans right here. And the reason we're successful is because these guys always have our back.
That's
All right,
amazing.
so it's a different feeling.
Right.
You'll find out about it when you get here and you feel supported and endorsed by your community and the town leaders. To a person, everyone here in this side of this table always helps us out and always has our backs. So you'll find out all about it. Okay?
Let the man talk, Andy.
I'm gonna. I gotta go to a meeting. Do your thing, all right?
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to share, Nick?
No, you know, like I've been doing this almost 11 years now. I don't do it for recognition or, you know, especially I work in City White Plains, big growing city, a lot of highways. I've been to tons and tons of accidents, not all great outcomes, but that comes with the job. But this one in particular, you know, it makes you think. I acted very quickly. I'm very fortunate that not only was I there, but for this uniform I'm wearing now, if it wasn't for this job I have, the training I've endured my career, I don't think it would have been possible. You know, I'm a strong, tough guy. I could have been an average person driving home that day, but just knowing the skill set I had and remaining calm and being able to do it, And, hope it doesn't happen again, but I do it all over again. It doesn't matter if, I end up not the same outcome, but I would still go ahead and do it. Could be me one day that could have to happen to, someone in this room might have to do it to me, but I think we need a lot more of that going forward as well. We don't turn on the media, it's all negative, and but not a lot of people tend to reflect on the positive stuff, so I'm glad I was able to bring that little minuscule part to the book here, so.
Awesome. Thank you for being a true example. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And,
See you.
we'll keep in touch. We'll keep in contact.
And I will, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime, Rob.
Talk soon. Thank you so much. Good, everybody. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Well, that's the stuff that makes the world go around right there. Okay, back to public comment. Do we have people sign up tonight,
Yes,
Kristen?
so Joan Polson is the first. And I'm just
Miss-
gonna set the timer for 3 minutes.
We have a new device here, a timer. We're official now.
Hi, Joan Polson, 16 Twilight Lane. I don't have anything written tonight. I have a request. I found a very amazing testimony online through a Zoom meeting that was published by New Yorkers for Safe Technology or Wired Tech, something like that. It was a presentation by a New York City police officer who was also a 9/11 responder who came back to his apartment in a 3-family house that he had purchased in Queens and renovated completely. And he must have been on a trip or something. He came back and he started to have, he found a cell tower, a really tall tower with one antenna at the top right in front of his building. He developed heart arrhythmias, he couldn't sleep, and he had very bad headaches. He went to a cardiologist and he was diagnosed with heart arrhythmias. At some point he stayed over a friend's house and the symptoms went away. I would like to ask the board if we could show that clip. It's about 12 minutes, if we could have it on the agenda for next month. It was a very powerful testimony, and it was, instead of hearing about experiments and scientific results, this was like really, it really had a lot of impact. So I'm asking for that. And I sent out a notice. We had quite a few new people that we hadn't met before at our educational meeting that we had last week. And I asked if people could come to the meeting tonight just to be present and give us their support. I know everybody's very busy and has jobs and kids and all kinds of responsibilities, so I'm just going to ask if there are any other people here that I don't know yet that are here because of this issue, and people that I do know.
Joan, you can only address the Board of Selectmen directly.
Oh,
You can ask people to join you later, but you can't,
could they stand up like they did for the...
if they choose to, but this is not a place to sell your, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Austin Montero.
Austin Montero, 17 Dairy Farm Drive here in Brookfield. And just a second, when Joan said, last week we had an information meeting here. Went pretty well. I think it was a great first step forward about 5G towers. And some actionable steps that we've taken since then that I just want to go over so everybody knows we're staying on top of this and moving forward. First step that we've done is I've been in contact with Senator Harding. We spoke again this morning about SB 73, which, if you're not aware, is a bill to place a local rep on the siting council. So we're pushing now to amend that bill and abolish the siting council at large, or at least take their power from 5G towers and antennas and future technologies away from them and put it back into local municipalities. So working with Steve Harding on that. Part two, I put a call today into the owner of 60 Vale Road where the tower is going. We had a 10-minute conversation on the phone. I'll say it's constructive. There's a lot more I can say about that I won't say here. Hoping to have some more dialogue here in the near future with him and the other owners of 60 Vale. And then lastly, tomorrow morning at 9:20, I'm going to be on I-95 morning show with Ethan Liu and Dave, I believe their new guy there. So I'm going to be talking about what's going on here in Brookfield, what's going on here at the state at large, what we're doing to try to fight this and grow this movement. So if anybody can listen and share that, that would be awesome. And 9:20. So we're going to have about 10 minutes, 9:20. It'll be quick. It'll be fun. Those are fun guys. So it'll be a fun conversation to listen to. I-95. It's also on their website. So if you don't listen to the radio, it's on their website too. So you can be on your phone or anywhere. And so yeah, if you could do that and just share that, that would be awesome. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot more from us coming. So thank you guys so much. And thanks, Joan and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Cohn.
Hi, Andy Keem, 5 Fernbrook Drive. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the accounting problem that we seem to have here in Brookfield, and that is that one of the things that happens here is that all the departments submit budgets. We're going into the budget season, obviously, right now. Yeah, and they come to the Board of Selectmen and ask for special appropriations. That kind of bypasses the budget process. In fact, this, I think, is the very definition of budget creep. Tonight, we see a $80,000 request for generators. I'm not saying that the generator is not needed, but that should go through a budget process so that the Selectmen and the Board of Finance and everyone else in the town can prioritize these things in light of all the many requests and needs that we have. When folks come in here and ask you to make a decision, sometimes on the quick, I'm not sure that it gets the full evaluative process that it really deserves in light of all the other items. So this, at a minimum, it's bad budgeting or lack of budgeting completely. And number two is, I'd just like to point out, I know there's another request to redo the rent on 43 Silvermine Road. One of the things in looking at the Brookfield budget, the accounting may not be as transparent as it should be on that issue. The WPCA uses a system of accounting called Enterprise Fund, where they list all their revenues and expenses in one fund, so you can immediately see, are they making money, are they losing money, what's going on. That's not done, in my opinion, with the rental properties. Some of the income's somewhere else, some of the expenses are all over the place. It really all the rental properties really should be accounted for in an enterprise fund, because it is an enterprise. We're charging money and we're incurring expenses, and we're incurring losses, and the citizens of Brookfield should be able to see those losses clearly in one place, and they should be able to be identified. And then I would also encourage you to charge the fair rental value for properties. As you know, Brookfield's an expensive place to live, and some of these rents seem to be below average. Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is that all on the list, Kristen? Okay, thanks. All right, moving right along to our presentations. Is our fire marshal here? Jason? There he is. So just for edification as we move into this, the generator that Mr. Kame was just mentioning was actually on the capital request for this cycle, and the capital committee, we collectively decided to pay for it now, and Jason will explain a little bit more as to why there is this urgent need, so to speak, for the idea of a generator that's been kicked around for a very long time. Thanks for coming, Jason.
So obviously, as you said, there's a, you know.
Jason, you need to keep the microphone in front of you so it's recorded.
Sure.
Thanks.
The item in front of you today is for a budget item for the generator, as Tara just said. There's no emergency power generation on this campus at all. So that's for town hall, and that's for the senior center. Our emergency operations center right now is used at the police department, which is also very small. It's tight. It's and lacking the facilities and room that we need there, on top of interfering with their business. You know, and there's some other issues as far as collect and everything as far as that goes. Collect is a system that law enforcement uses, and privileges and rights to view that. And then, depending on the size of the emergency for the town, an emergency operations center can be something as far as a car, or it can be something as large as this room, depending on which municipal, federal, and state partners, as well as your you know, civilian and community partners that are there with you. So we're proposing a generator for the senior center, which would act as both an EOC, a warming center, a cooling center, and a modified shelter, which is the bottom line. Right now, the town of Brookfield has 2 shelters. One is open right now, and that's the high school, which is a single point of failure, which we learned on Christmas Day. It was used as a warming center. It wasn't in use at the time, but Christmas Day there was a water leak from a sprinkler system, and we wouldn't be able to use that anyway. Lastly, the other emergency center in town, shelter in town, is the Candlewood Lake School, which is another large facility. The problem with large facilities, it takes more to heat, more to cool, more to run. You're into union issues, personnel issues, and I don't think it's economically smart. It's definitely not what the town needs right now. The senior center is something that we can use as far as a scalable response. It takes a lot less people to operate. We can pretty much operate the senior center with minimal staff, 1 or 2 staffing from the town, and volunteers. Once again, the key thing with that is volunteers. We depend on volunteers in the town for shelters, cooling centers, and warming centers, and things of that sort. So the more requests for them, you know, the more of a chance that we don't have them. Or if it's a prolonged incident, how long are volunteers available? So if we can run something with 2 or 3 volunteers versus a crew of volunteers, the police department, fire department, you know, obviously, which would it take for the high school or the other school, takes away from town assets. You know, as the previous speaker spoke about, it's expensive to live in Brookfield. Taxes are high. This is something I think that we owe to the town. This isn't a nice to have. I think it's something that we really need, and we're far behind the times if we don't have something like this to invest in this. And it's also investing in our most vulnerable population. Unofficial numbers were, I want to say, 5 people registered for social services in about 5-year period from August till February. I want to say we had 60 registrants in the town of Brookfield for social services of some need. So that shows as the town's growing, so is our vulnerable population. This is a responsibility that we as a town owe to the community to take care of them. And then, you know, it's not just something that we can use for emergency management, it's something to help with the senior center. And that goes as far as food pantry and other operations we run in town. It was crucial for the vaccine and PPE and things of that sort. And as natural disasters and, you know, we rotate this game called life, we're going to be posed with different challenges, and I'm sure we're not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
No.
I had to go.
So we do have an estimate that was received from our Public Works Director and Town Engineer. That was probably on the high end, and I'm sure there's work that the town can do itself, but I can't speak to that. We're going to have someone else speak to that and the scope of work, what comes with that. You know, I'm not an expert on the generator itself. I just have what was presented to me for that.
Am I correct that the senior center would have to be able to facilitate if people have to stay over? Is there room in there if something's closed, you know, their house is closed, or there's a section of town down, like?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the scale of the incident, you know, the senior center is deceivingly large. I want to say there's 3 large rooms, plus there's offices. The generator will allow for connectivity, to allow for, you know, fresh water, heating, cooling, a charging station, as well as an EOC, like we said.
I believe it is
Yep.
capable, right, of overnight if we had to?
Yes, depending on scale. So just.
Right, well.
Right,
Just for-
depending on, I mean, you know, and Brookfield typically hasn't seen a use for a large-scale shelter. You know, we're fortunate that something like the microburst, we had the assistance of the Red Cross. The Red Cross won't operate a shelter if it's a disaster or an issue that's widespread. So something like the microburst was relatively, small in nature, being it was, condensed to Brookfield itself, so they would help us out for that. Otherwise, we depend on regional shelter and area shelters, which the Red Cross will help operate.
Okay, good.
So for the microburst, the high school was open, right?
The
But
high school
not
was open,
many
yes.
people
Yep.
used it,
You know,
right?
and, some town employees and then also the Red Cross. But like I said, we're not gonna have the Red Cross, so this will help, the economy of Forest as well. I mean, it's the economy of the town, it's a scalable event. It takes a lot less to operate, plus they have all the facilities we need minus a shower.
So just for clarification, Jason, our former police chief, Jay Purcell, and Wayne Gravius are the three who lead the emergency management team. And I've been talking to them for the last year about what are we going to do if something happens. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day was a perfect example of not being prepared, because the typical warming and cooling stations, which are the library and the Y, were closed because of the holiday. So our last resort was the lobby of the police station, which is not a suitable arena to have when
We
they're
did have a
trying to
guest
run operations.
in the lobby of the police station for about 12 hours. So part of that day was, back and forth on the phone with the police chief saying, hey, listen, if this is something that grows, where do we go from here? How long is he gonna be here for? They don't have the resources there, the operation at the police department, stuff like that. So
And the same thing happened as we were approaching this past weekend. We had a gap in any kind of our plan, because again, the library and the Y, while they're very generous and they open up and, they've been great to our residents, accommodating everybody, it's only during their hours of operation. So there's a gap in the plan, and, we couldn't, we would have, I guess, sent them back to the police department, but it's not ideal. It's just a Band-Aid, and this is a solution that will accommodate our residents when in need. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
No,
So the original request for the generator was $65,000, but the estimate came in high. So the request would be for not to exceed $80,000. However, we're going to try to stick to the low end of the price for the generator, and then use Public Works to do some of the trenching and other things that we can get after in-house.
questions, comments?
I have some comments. We've looked at this since the microburst. In microburst, we lost every single building in town. We did set up the high school as the emergency operations center. The generator went out there 3 different times. We then addressed that in the following years. I think it took 2 years to put a brand-new generator in the high school. So that is now fully capable of running. Occasionally, you will get a water leak. The plan, and this has been going back 6 years, is to put a generator on this building, a generator on the senior center, a generator on the library. 2 things. One, we were without the ability to run this town for 7 or 8 days during the microburst. This building was down completely. Even the locks didn't work. We finally got the Eversource to come in, and they put a generator in for us, a temporary generator, which was very kind of them. And then we had 3 days while we were still without power on generator. I think that this building is as critical or more critical than the senior center. If you don't have phones, you don't have the ability to communicate, and your staff doesn't have the ability to communicate, you're really at a disadvantage. The senior center is good. It would be a heating center. It would be a place to keep people. In an emergency, this building, you can put somebody in the lobby for 12 hours. I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can. That's just my opinion. The second is, I'm not a fan of taking money out of our normal budget cycle, particularly since we're moving into the budget in the next 2 weeks. The capital committee should be looking at this and recommending it to the town, and not doing these one-off purchases willy-nilly. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's the right way to do it.
Looked at it and took it out.
We presented this to the capital committee as well. It was also
Yeah.
recommended to us to present to the board of selectmen.
Yeah, and I think we should wait for the normal budget cycle. That's over the next 2 months. That's my opinion.
I'm just worried at the timing of that, the old saying, bad news doesn't get better. We still have 2 months left of winter, potentially winter storms, and then we roll right into hurricane season.
Yeah, I know, we've had 5 years of the
Yep.
Board of Finance saying no to a generator for the senior center.
Absolutely, but, I mean, I think the time has come where, you know, our vulnerable population, as well as needs of the town, needs of the people, the town taxpayers, has hit that peak. You know, I understand it's a, you know, a large expense, but I also think it's more of a responsibility, something.
The other reason I like the
versus nice to
senior
have.
center is because it has the kitchen and it has the room where you can put cots in there, and having phone communication, the senior center has that. If this building goes down, the main people who are gonna need to be on their laptops, they have those laptops. They can go to where there's power to be able to do the work. For example, Marcia and Polini with the finance office.
You know, in opening an emergency
To do a
operations
generator for
center,
this building, it'd be an additional $150,000.
Correct.
opening you know, an emergency operations center also gives you a lot of your key staff from the town in one building. So, I
Yep.
mean, it's something smaller, but it will allow them to work and it will allow them to provide service to the town.
Yeah, I understand. I
outside
just
of
don't
this
want to do it on a one-off outside of the normal budget process.
So Marcia, do you
I
want
never
to?
thought I'd agree with Andy on anything, but I do.
But Tara, before we go to Marcia, I also really try to stay away from out-of-cycle purchases. But being a contractor, I have to deal with, and I am vulnerable to supply and material demand and the cost. As far as I have a painting contracting company, I can only give I can only secure an estimate for about 2 weeks. That's how fast the materials go up. Now, it's a much smaller scale, but my issue is, what's it gonna cost in 2 months or 3 months? It could be another.
Well, I mean,
Who knows what?
originally, we were thinking.
No, I'm not asking you, I'm
No,
saying.
but, I mean, what we were given before, previous to this, prior to this, was about $65,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
That's why I would be.
I mean,
in favor-
I have kids in town, I pay taxes in town too, trust me, I'm the last one that wants to spend money, I'm sure Tara can tell you.
But I'll tell you, he's
But-
the first one to go running when there's a problem, so.
But, you know, for something like this, I mean, you know, taxes go up, the needs go up, we're bringing, you know, multifamily housing into town at a phenomenal rate right now. And I wanna say there's probably, 15, 20 different complexes coming to town in the next, 5 years that we either have plans for or are currently building. So the need with that, you know, as diversity rises, you know, so are needs in town, so.
Being
And
a si-
like you're saying, you know,
Yeah, and being a sizable cost, it's, that's why I would be in favor of doing it now and not waiting 2 or 3 months.
and then the other thing is, you know, we depend on volunteers, so volunteers, you don't wanna wear them out. If it's something that's large, you know, something like the high school or Canada Lake School, I got it. It can accommodate more people, that's what it was there for. But I just don't think that, you know, this last storm, we pulled volunteers. We had 3 people that were willing to work, this winter storm, should the need arise in a place that we had. We can't do that at the high school.
So, do we want to pursue looking at going for it out of cycle? If so, I'd like for Marcia to speak to where the money's coming from and the health of the fund.
We spoke at the capital committee that they allocated what their recommendations were, and this would come out of the fund balance of the capital non-recurring fund. The 2 reasons for that is there's some restrictions on that it's got to be used by certain deadlines. And the second one is if it didn't get done by June 30th, that money carries over where the general fund does not.
So we can build it back into the capital or approve it now, or do nothing.
Make your motion.
Yeah, I was just going to do that. Thank you for prompting me. So I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve up to, but not to exceed, the $80,000 for a much-needed generator at the senior center paid for from the capital non-recurring fund.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I think that we do need a generator at the senior center, and I've advocated for it for 7 years, as long as this building, but I think it still needs to go through. Given this year's budget and what's going on with this year's budget, we have to be very, very careful how we spend money, or we're gonna end up asking residents to pay a 10% increase in their taxes, which is going to be very hard to get passed. And I think we need to look at it in light of all of the requests to the town, because we can't satisfy them all.
So adding it to next year's budget isn't going to alleviate any of those problems. And we'd just be kicking the can down the road.
Unfortunately, when it comes to municipal budgets, you are always kicking something down the road. You look at every single year's budget, 60% of the things that are proposed are not approved because the town simply doesn't have the money and can't ask residents for a 20% increase every year. It's not viable, it's not the right thing to do, so you have to make tough decisions as to what capital items you're gonna approve and which ones you're not. Every single capital item we have in our capital budget is something the town really needs. There is no frivolous items in our capital budget, but we cannot fund $40 million worth of capital requests in 1 year. We just can't do it. So we have to make judicious decisions and balance all those requests.
So we haven't gotten into the budget yet, just for the public. The budget process has not officially started, so capital request came in at 15 million, and we're looking to support about 12.
Steve, I understand what you're saying, and whether we purchase this or whether we don't purchase this isn't gonna put us close to a 10%. I don't want people thinking out there that if we purchase this, that we're gonna be could be at a 10%. But my defense of voting yes for now is we are going to get this, whether it's this year or next year. So why wait till next year and have to pay $95,000 or $100,000 for it? It is a necessity, and I understand, because I was on with you when we were trying to get this before. But I could go to sleep tonight in clear conscience of voting it forward to put it in now, and instead of waiting until next year, or put it in cycle.
Yeah, I can see it both ways, but if I can quote Senator Proxmire from the late 70s, and he's the man who said, you know, $1 billion here, $1 billion there, pretty soon you're talking about real money. And we have to look at this, and given that we have a budget cycle coming up, and I disagree that the budget hasn't started, it already has, I have the school's budget and ours, that we could
Well, it
put
goes
this
through
in our
for
normal
Selectmen,
budget.
And I haven't presented it yet, so.
Yeah, you haven't formally presented, but the budget
That's right.
process has started. It will be finished in another 2 months, so that's my opinion.
Okay, so I'm very much in favor of public health and safety. When the you-know-what hits the fan, it's gonna be on my shoulders, and I will not have residents of this town in need out there on a -5-degree night without somewhere to go. And that's what we currently have. We have no plan, so.
We have we have 2 emergency centers. We have this building, we have the police, we have the fire
police
department.
is not an
We have a
option.
number of places
Fire
people can
department
go.
is not an option.
Because the senior center does not have a generator, it's a misstatement to say people will be out in the freezing cold. We have 2
Where are they gonna go?
to the high school. That's our
And we gotta
emergency
depend on
operations
union,
center.
people to come in, open it up on Christmas Day, when the water
Senior
main
center,
is
we have to have
breaking.
people come in, open it up on, come on, we have to open up every
Yeah,
single building.
Jason said we have a team of
We do.
volunteers ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the
All right,
town's
well,
job
clearly you
too.
don't want it right now, you wanna build it into the budget. So all in favor of my motion? Or any further discussion, I'm sorry.
I don't have any further.
No, I'm fine.
All in favor of supporting the generator now?
Aye.
Aye. Is that a yes or a no?
You haven't asked me all not in favor.
Not in favor.
That's the process we use. I am not in favor.
We
I
use
vote
that
no.
process, right. Okay, passes 2-1. Thank you, Jason. And everybody who worked on that, Aaron. Moving on to Aaron, our Director of Public Health.
Thank you, Private Website. Do you guys have a copy of these?
I have it.
Yes. Does everybody have one? You do?
I have it, thank you.
I'm all set.
You're up. Thank you.
As the health department, we're requesting fee changes in our 2 programs, which is one for septic program and also the food program. I believe you have a copy of the proposed fee schedule. I mean, current what we have and also the proposed fees, and also comparison of the surrounding towns. We, as a health department, I decided to come up with this just not because it actually has come up because of scenarios where we had remodeling permit applications submitted for restaurants, but we did not have anything charged them because we haven't been charging them. And that is a service that we have always been providing, but really not getting paid for. And that allowed me to dig in more and compare to different towns as to what other fees are involved in this, and are we getting paid less compared to other towns, or are we even or more, so that we can kind of evaluate where we stand as a department. For the septic, it was the same thing. It was a conversation between myself and our sanitarian Paul, who has been here about 15 years. We have been doing services such as plan reviews for the B100A, what we call it, which is within the public health code regulations. We're not charging any fees for that too, for I don't know how many years, but since Paul has been here. When you compare that to different towns, I have worked in multiple different towns. That is one of the services that we charge because it involves quite a amount of work. It could be between 1 to 2 hour plan reviews and field work, depending on what the project may be. So that scenario also allowed me to do more, a little bit of digging in our fees, specific to septic program. And the list, we have the second page, which shows the current fees and the proposed, depending on what the service may be.
I don't have any questions. Is
Yeah,
that?
I would say we'll
That's
keep
all.
this,
So
yeah.
if any questions, I have no problem answering them.
Yeah, it's definitely time to bring,
I did try my
fee
best to be
schedule
more
is just
sensitive
not-
as to increasing the fees so that it's not where it's a burden for our restaurant owners and contractors or applicants. I did try to stay on the low end compared to different towns. So I did my best to be sensitive in that term.
I do have one question. On the new food establishment fees, our current fee is $275 with plan review. The proposed is $150, but it doesn't say with plan review. Are you charging separately for a plan review?
That is correct. That is one of the changes that I'd like to move forward with, because we do not have a separate plan review fees.
Right.
An example would that be is, let's say we have an existing restaurant who wants to expand their kitchen.
Right.
Needs a review from us, an approval from us. We don't have a fee for that, in that we haven't been charging for those services.
Where's the fee for that? I'm a little confused.
So that is, yeah, so for example, if a class 1 establishment wants to
Right.
expand their kitchen,
Mhm.
with the plan review, we'll be charging them $275. That's it, sorry.
Oh, I see,
Let
down
me-
here,
let me-
okay.
Let me back up.
Oh,
actually.
you're adding a whole new category of plan
Category,
review
because
fees.
that
Okay.
is a new category
That makes
compared to
sense.
other towns.
Okay. Thank you. I
Just a
gotcha.
comparison, if a new establishment is being opened, they have to go through the plan review process, which they're paying for it. But the existing restaurant, if they are going through a plan review because they want to expand or do an addition, there is no plan review fee for that.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
makes
for
sense.
that, I also charge my best to be sensitive to not, burden the restaurant owners or applicants.
Well, we want it to be reasonable.
Correct,
And
exactly.
applicable.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I came up with these fees. They're just not made up numbers. Those are actually, either I made phone calls to health departments from other towns, or actually went to their website to pull up their fee schedule.
you did a good job of comparison.
Thanks.
I think we're right where we should be with this new proposal.
I'm all set.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we set a public hearing date for the evening of our next Board of Selectmen meeting, which is the 6th of March, 2023, at 6:30 PM. I'm sorry, at 6 o'clock PM, to amend the current health department fee schedule.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Is there a reason why we would start it at 6? And I mean, are we looking at
We're
an hour?
gonna have
meet-
another public hearing
Oh,
at
okay,
6:30,
okay,
that's next
okay,
on the agenda.
No, I have none. Okay.
Okay, anything else? Hearing none.
That's right, I forgot about that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, guys.
And Mr. Jaffe?
this for his one page, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Ron Jaffe. I'm here representing the Youth Commission. And the item on the agenda tonight is proposed revisions to town ordinance. The memo from the Youth Commission just briefly outlines the reason why the Youth Commission wanted to propose changes to the ordinance. And basically, when the Youth Commission was established a couple of years ago, it was established mid-year. There's a fair amount of language in the current ordinance that talks about timing based on, it's just no longer relevant. But what the Youth Commission wanted to do is add members to expand the reach and representation within the community and within the schools. We want to have the non-voting members, which are really students, have their term align with the high school year. It makes more sense. And in the ordinance, the powers and duties were really rewritten by the Youth Commission, primarily the students, to reflect what the commission is currently doing while opening the door to innovative and necessary ideas represented by the youth. So that's why this is here. And so I'm glad to answer any questions that you have.
Has the charter revision, was this brought before the charter revision committee at all?
Yes, and in fact, what we were told was, and by town attorney, is that in order for the Charter Revision Commission to move forward, actually the ordinance needs to be changed first. So there's a timing issue here.
Okay.
There is time for this to be done, and actually, if you look at the presentation that the Charter Revision Commission made at their public hearing a week ago tonight, they said that this was, what was the term that they used? It was.
I was covered by someone else.
It was basically based on this ordinance being done at the time. This will be included in the.
Dude, maybe I'm a little thick here. I thought the Charter Revision Committee's job was to recommend changes to the charter, which
Right.
this is, right?
No, this is an ordinance change.
Oh, this is an ordinance, okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, now that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
Everything you say makes sense to
So
me.
in effect, the town will be ultimately moving on both ends, but the ordinance needs to be done first so the Charter Revision can reference the correct ordinance.
That makes sense, okay.
I understand the wanting to align it with the school year. I think that's absolutely necessary. I was just curious, have you ever had to turn any youth away? Why increase it from the 5 to 7? Are you looking to bring in new members, or are there kids that you've had to turn away?
We never turn anybody away from meetings. Everyone is welcome to come, but we actually have more students now attending than our members.
Okay.
And the idea of having more is that as we expand, then we can also kind of rotate them through, not have, all students leave at the same time. And, so the idea is just to have more representation, more people
Is
involved.
7 a good, is that enough?
That's what the commission recommended, and I think that's fine.
Okay. And then I have one final question about the proposed changes under powers and duties of A through D. I'm sorry, A through C. Who approves all of those things?
Well, students bring things to the committee, and the voting members are the, if you will, the adult members of the commission, and they work with the youth, and it depends on what we're doing. If, for example, the youth commission did a program at the high school, it was a career fair. We work with the administration to make sure that it's approved, and it's done in conjunction with them. If they're doing something, with the town or with someone else, they would, the adults are there to help, kind of make sure that, we help them understand what the process is and who to get involved with and how to do it.
Do we need to spell any of that out as far as who's responsible for what? Like,
I'm
just
not sure
saying
that you
we're
need to
gonna-
go beyond what's here. I think it's fairly straightforward.
So anything that would be taking place, like you were saying, that had to do with the schools, that would, the school administration or whoever, whatever category it's in, whatever, they would be the ones that would be,
Nothing happens in the schools without the administration being aware of it.
okay.
Yes.
And as far as the town goes, if it's something, a job fair or something that would have to do with the town, would that end up coming to town hall to just either be previewed or so that we know what's going on?
Sure. Keep in mind that most of what the students are talking about is school-related.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So do we want to take this to public hearing? Any other questions for Mr. Jaffe?
I don't have any further
I'm all
questions.
All right, well, I'd like to make the motion that we schedule a public hearing date for next Board of Selectmen meeting, the evening of Monday, the 6th of March, 2023, at 6:30, which would immediately follow the public hearing of the Health Department fee schedule, in order to revise the ordinance Chapter 72 for the Youth Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
All set.
None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
I think we'll get that in there on time for the short charter revision.
Oh, easily.
What's next? Mr. Dombowski.
Good evening.
Hello.
I think I have the next 3 agenda items.
Yes, sir.
So can I just stay up here and just rolling?
By all means.
Okay, so I've got 3 agenda items, all of which I've spoken to you before. So this is not only an update, but it's a request for action from this board, so all 3 of these projects can move forward. And it looks like 20 Station Road is the first one up. Kristen, thank you very much. So, 20 Station Road, this is the DECD remediation, demolition, and redevelopment grant. The last time I made a presentation to you was in September of '22. And since then, 3 important things have happened. The first was on December 12th. We received our award letter for $1.2 million. That's a full amount in our grant request. That award letter came with a stipulation, and that stipulation was that the redevelopment of that property must meet DECD affordable housing policy guidelines. And what that means in this particular case is, at the request of the developer, 20% of the units must be no more than 80% of AMI. So that's the award letter we received on December 12th. A week later, the developer, who was very encouraged by the fact that we were awarded that $1.2 million, submitted his application to the Wetlands Commission, because that is a major challenge in this redevelopment because there's wetlands on the property. And their questions to that developer are now being addressed. In fact, that next meeting is going to be in a couple weeks, where we'll be speaking to them about that application and our support of it. Then a month later, on January 19th, we received confirmation, because this was a question we had. Because we have an affordable housing moratorium, with the help of our town attorney here, we wanted clarification and certainty that our affordable housing moratorium would not be impacted by this grant application. In other words, to meet the DECD affordable housing policy, as I stated above, would our affordable housing moratorium still be intact? And the answer came back yes. So that's what's happened since September of '22. Now let's get into timeline and what's next. Before I get into next steps and milestones, I want to just repeat, and in fact we've added to, what's in it for the town. The first thing is this project will eliminate the blight at 20 Station Road, and we will collect in excess of the current $100,000 of blight fines that are now accruing at $100 a day. The second thing this project will do, we will collect the overdue taxes. As of last Friday, they were $17,000. The third thing it will do, when this project's completed, it'll increase our grand list by about $9 million, generating $158,000 in additional property tax. The next thing it'll do, when this project's completed, we will have collected about $130 in land use, building, and other department fees. When the project's completed, the demolition remediation will be done at no more than $60,000 of cost of town money. And we're also going to be getting a municipal parking lot that we requested with this redevelopment, and we have for some time. So we'll be getting additional public parking in our TCD. There's a couple beautiful things about this project that make it particularly attractive. The town, even though it's doing the remediation, will have no liability or ownership of this property ever. It's going to be a pass-through agreement. So even if there's future litigation or someone decides that it wasn't cleaned up right or whatever, the town will have zero environmental liability. And that's been a hang-up for many, many years. So that's what this grant will also allow us. And the next thing I want to mention is the developer is at risk for any cost over the grant award, not the town. So that's a lot of wonderful things that are in it for the town. And what makes this project possible is this grant is different, and it's only been the last two grant awards where not only are they giving us money for remediation, but they require redevelopment. We don't have a choice. There is an agreement that we will not only remediate, but we'll redevelop. And if they don't redevelop, the state's going to claw its money back. So they've got it, this is a redevelopment grant, not just a remediation grant. So that's where we are with the goodness of this grant. So what are the next steps and milestones? What I'm here today is to ask this board, I think it's required, I'm not sure, but if it is required, to schedule a town meeting to approve this $1.2 million expenditure, all of which $60,000 will be reimbursed after the fact. And on the next page of this presentation, which I don't want to go to yet, are the 29 line items that make up that $1.2 million. That was in our grant application, and those exact line items are what we are approved to expend, up to those amounts. And then we need to start working on this financial agreement, which I did not attach to this presentation, but it's about a 20 or 30 page document, and we have 60 days to complete this financial agreement with the DECD, and we may need a couple $1,000 for Ty and Bond to work with us because it's a very complicated, involved agreement. I talked to Jules a couple days ago about this. We may be able to do it on our own, but we may need some more consulting advice for that agreement. It's very complex. This whole remediation activity is not a trivial thing. And we're certainly going to want our town attorney to take a look at any agreement we sign, of course, is going to go through Marcia's office. So we will co-sign, not just us, but the developer has to co-sign this financial assistance agreement. They're putting in a $15 million investment into 20 Station Road. And then in March, we'll issue an RFP for LEP services. LEP is Licensed Environmental Professional. And it's required that somebody with that certification actually oversee the remediation. We're then going to be looking at, and I know the WPCA is already looking at amending their sewer moratorium because for this project to go, they're going to need sewer. We're hoping to get our wetlands permit by April. The developer is going to purchase the property. At the closing, we'll collect back taxes and the liens I mentioned above. We've got to get a ZBA variance because of the some little nuances in the redevelopment. I can talk to you about that more in detail if you'd like. Then we'll issue an RFP for the demolition remediation. We'll select a contractor, and we'll start the demolition in the spring of '24, estimated to be 60 days. We'll be taking out the top 10 feet of soil across that property, and then for the next 2 years, there'll be quarterly groundwater monitoring. and that will be even when those new apartments are built. So that's the project, and the next step is to, if necessary, to schedule a town meeting for that expenditure.
Question. If the water company, if they are going to either revise or alter the moratorium for this project, what about, are they going to do it for others? In other words, 701. I know that 701 is an issue with septic.
There's no revision or exceptions to the moratorium. The moratorium stands as is. So it's not like they're giving an exception for just this project.
Okay.
The moratorium is an 830G moratorium.
Okay.
This,
Oh, okay.
So this is a DECD affordable housing policy that we're moving towards. This is not 830G.
I thought you said that the
Oh, he's
WPC
talking about the WPCA.
Yeah, the
Oh, I'm sorry.
WPCA.
I'm sorry.
If they're going to, okay, I got confused. I think I'm all set.
What is the WPC, to Terry's point, what is the WPCA's policy towards making exceptions without running into one developer starting to sue them
yeah, that's-
because they showed preference to another developer?
So I've talked to Nelson about this, of course. Nelson, I believe, was consulted with their WPCA attorney. There's already 4 or 5 exceptions to the WPCA sewer moratorium. They're looking at adding another exception. This exception would state that any brownfield sites in the town of Brookfield would be exempt from the sewer moratorium. This is the last brownfield site in Brookfield. So that's
It's a rather neat way to,
that's the nuance that we're working through.
How-
Now, if we can't deliver on all of this, we will not receive the grant money, we won't do the remediation.
okay. I have a couple questions, that's okay with you guys?
Absolutely.
How many units is Brookfield Village gonna build?
50-something, I don't have the number off the top of
50-something.
my head. The reason why we have to go to ZBA, they've asked because of the 80% AMI that they're looking for. The numbers don't work as well for them, and they would like to ask a variance to not put commercial on the first floor, but housing instead. That's the variance that they're requesting. So it's gonna be about 50-some units. It's not gone to zoning yet, it's not gone to wetlands. It may get downsized, if you will, by the time it gets through the land use permitting process.
So if we were to say no to that, as far as the residential on the first floor, is that a game breaker for them?
Yes.
Okay.
They said it's a game breaker to us. I can't speak for the developer, I can tell you what they've said to us. We've had these conversations multiple times, but to them, it's a deal breaker.
We had made an exception on the back building, Steve, that to let them be residential. That was part of,
No, I don't think so.
the back, no, the ones that aren't built, I'm talking about the ones that are gonna be back on Laurel Hill. The 2 buildings that are being built, they're not gonna be residential. They're gonna be residential on the first floor, correct?
2 buildings on Laurel Hill?
You mean the
I
Brookfield?
mean on Station, I'm sorry.
The Brookfield Village that's going in
Yeah,
behind Ridge
yeah,
Farm right now?
I meant on Station.
No, I don't believe that's true. We have to double check. I don't think we
Are they
ever
gonna be?
allowed,
Well, commercial's only required on.
Residential on the ground floor.
As it fronts
Correct.
property, but if you're talking about the building on Station that's behind Station Road,
Right.
I'm gonna guess it has no commercial, because it's not on the road.
That's how, we had, to my recollection, we went with that. They're gonna have residential on the first floor, or not gonna have residential on the first floor, those 2 that are being built now.
The back building, I doubt is gonna have, I doubt it's gonna have commercial on the first floor, because it's off the road.
Right,
On the front building, off the top of my head, I don't know, Harry. We can certainly look at that, but whatever has been approved is being built
Right.
now, so.
but if they wanted to go residential on the buildings that are going up right now on Station Road, if they wanted to go residential on the ground floor, they would have had to get the ZBA to approve. Right.
When that project was approved a couple years ago, it's whatever the then current zoning regs were. Steve, I don't recall exactly off the top of my
Okay,
head.
we can check that, because we want to be consistent. For the parking that they're saying is for municipalities, is that going to be deeded?
Good question. I don't know. I think they're going to allow public parking on that land.
Yeah, but
Are
they
you
can
saying
allow
should-
public parking for 5 years and then say, oh, we need all our parking, no more public parking.
So your request is, or the suggestion is we either purchase the land or it be deeded in perpetuity?
What their original agreement was a couple of years ago when I talked to them about this was they would dedicate a certain amount of those spaces to be municipal parking spots in perpetuity.
They haven't backed away anything from what they said a couple of years ago.
Okay, then we just want to make sure we get it in writing.
That's fine.
Because he sells that development and the new developer says, hey, I don't know, go away, right?
May I make a suggestion? There's all, rather than purchasing, you could also do deed restrictions.
Yeah.
And just have them put them in the deed.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Comes with the
talking
land.
about.
Okay.
We're not talking about buying it. They're just going to dedicate some of those spots for municipal parking, because we all recognize we need that.
And putting in a deed restrictions, helps you out where if it becomes a
Right.
condition on zoning, somebody's gonna have to go look at the conditions on zoning,
Right.
which is gonna be 40 years from now, they're gonna fix it. If it's in the deed, it's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, yeah,
Steve,
the
my
deed
po-
is the way to go.
Steve, my point is, we knew that those buildings, because they were not on Route 7, were going to be residential on the first floor, the ones being built now.
I just don't know. We have to check. I just don't know.
I wish Alan were here.
Well, I'm almost sure that they are going to be residential on the first floor, but my question is,
Right.
I hope they're residential, nobody's occupying the commercial space we have.
but my point is, it was never brought up. This is a new project, and I could be wrong, Steve, but I thought that this was all tied into the first two buildings that went up with the tax abatement, and I thought that they were going to be allowed to put residential on the first floors of the buildings that aren't on Route 7. Fine, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, now we've got another building, it's not part of that, it's new because of the grant. And are they just assuming we're putting residential in, you know?
No, they need we need a variance.
Yeah, they would need a
We need a
variance.
variance. They can't put it in
And-
without a ZBA variance.
Okay,
The buildings they're building right now on Station Road have no tax abatement
right, correct.
whatsoever.
Right,
They're just building them,
right.
which makes you wonder if they needed a tax abatement in the first place, but that's water under the bridge.
That was 2016.
For the funding, how much have we spent with tie and bond so far? Rough.
$6,000? $4,000 to $6,000.
And where did that funding come from?
Marcia, where did that funding come from? Yeah. I don't remember. We'll look it up.
Oh, I know where it came from. They gave us a $10,000 deposit, and it came from that, plus we had.
Brookfield Village gave us a $10,000 deposit?
Developer.
There was a fee.
Okay.
Any applicant for the RFP
Okay,
had also sent a
Okay.
$10,000 check-in, non-refundable.
okay.
So we got, you're right, thank you, $10,000. I think we paid tie and bond 5 or 6.
And they're gonna need maybe another 3.
They've asked for 3. We're pushing back a little bit on that.
Okay.
And there might be some other legal fees. I don't know that we have all
Right.
the bills on, but we'll spend that 10,000, I think, before it's all done.
There's always legal fees. Okay. Thank you, that's it for me.
So that's the timeline. It's 2 years of work. If we want to clean up 20 Station Road, this is the best option we have at this point. And I will tell you that if we don't move forward with this and we go back for this money down the road, one of the boxes you check on a grant application, have you submitted for this grant before? And if we check yes and we said no, thank you, the chances of getting this money in the future, I think is gonna be a lot less.
Greg, this also protects us, and I'm not sure if you mentioned this, down the road, if there is an issue with a neighboring property, we no longer are responsible for that.
The town will never own 20 Station Road. The town will have 0 environmental liability.
And the developer will have 0 environmental responsibility for the follow-on, the plume that's going up.
As long as we do this quarterly groundwater monitoring.
Right,
That's why the remediation's gotta be done by a professional.
yeah.
Is EV part of the parking lot?
We can make it part of that. That's 2 years down the road. I think hopefully by 2 years, EV in parking lots is gonna be a standard. As you know, we have a meeting on Thursday about putting our first EV chargers in. So I hope that becomes more of a normal conversation as parking lots go in.
Zoning's looking at that too, didn't they change
Zoning's already
their-
got the regulations in
Yeah,
place.
they've already got them in place.
Yep.
Right.
So we could do all of these steps between today and June. Oh, no, because it's due in April. When's the application due?
They asked for 60 days after we accepted the terms of the grant award. But it's a soft 60 days. They didn't give us a hard deadline. They said, please have it to us, back to us in about 60 days.
So we could do all of those things according to the timeline, and it could still fail based on ZBA.
Yeah, I've not seen the language on the, well, actually I have. I've not read the language. They sent us the draft of the financial assistance agreement. So the question is gonna be, I think your question is, if we sign the agreement and we can't deliver on sewer, on ZBA, on wetlands, is the town on the hook? And the answer is gonna have to be no, or we're not gonna sign the agreement, I would guess.
And what about the fact that I know there's a contract to sell, but the developer does not yet own that property?
He doesn't want to, the reason why the contractors, it's a little bit of chicken and egg here. The contractor doesn't want to continue spending money on his wetlands application until he knows the town's going to commit to do the project. We can't commit to do the project till we have a town meeting, I think.
And he's not gonna commit to buy the property until this agreement is in place. I wouldn't.
Yeah, so these are all kind of going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna sign any financial agreement until we get it passed at the town meeting.
I'm not sure,
Yes.
probably, but we won't sign it until we know we have an out if it doesn't pass at a town meeting, for example.
Okay, so if we as a board wanna move forward with this Brownfields grant program, we need to establish the special town meeting.
Right.
You guys ready
The
to do
developer
that?
wants to know that the town is behind this project. And I said, I can't commit to you until I present this to the Board of Selectmen, and maybe a town meeting is required.
Any contract of this size requires a town meeting, I think. I think it's required.
Over $1 million.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Because technically, correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, the town is entering into the agreement with the DECD, technically.
yes.
Right.
Right, okay.
And we'll get reimbursed after we spend the money.
The requirement of the grant is that we partner with a developer.
We get reimbursed, it's not a reimbursement as you go?
No.
Well, after we expend, if it takes, it's only gonna take 2 months to do the work, so they tell us. Maybe after 30 days, we submit a reimbursement request, so we'll get a partial,
Okay.
right?
It's gonna take 2 months to do what?
Remediation, demolition,
Demo?
and remediation, 2 months.
Okay.
2 months,
Is what's in the
okay.
plan. If you look at that second sheet with all that
So
detail,
it's not the 2 years, the March,
no, there's gonna be a separate, so.
oh,
again,
okay. Okay, you're saying start in March 2024, you finish in 60 days, and quarterly monitoring. Gotcha.
Yes, and there's a monitoring fee on almost line, I think, 28. It's gonna be the 2 years of monitoring. There is line 28, how about that? 2 years of monitoring for $36,000 is what we have in the budget. Now, these are all gonna go out to bid. We hopefully come in lower. If we're over, it's on the developer.
Okay. So this is the amount the ECD has approved?
Yeah. And that worksheet was in the grant
And the
application.
developer has agreed in writing, if that monitoring goes to 84,000, he's gonna eat it? Okay.
Where's the 60,000 of the soft cost for the town?
This is only the one, it's on, I'm sorry, it's on the second
Outside
page
of
I didn't include here, Tara.
Oh, okay.
But we put in soft costs for the town. Soft costs being, I think, all of our time. It's gonna be primarily me, some legal costs and Marcia's time and everyone else in this room over the next 2 years. It's gonna be primarily my time. If, so.
Well, I'm gonna make the motion that we schedule this special town meeting for the 22nd of February, 2023,
I'll second that.
to approve the
Oh, I'm
demolition and remediation expenditure of the Brownfield project at 20 Station Road, not to exceed $1,207,938.
I will second that.
Any discussion?
There's a good chance I will not be here. I have a personal commitment, but I don't have an
I thought you
objection.
were coming back on the 22nd.
Oh, you're right, I am coming back. Wait a minute. Yes,
I know
I'm
when you
sorry.
are, Steve.
Mike surgery, 26.
Do we we have a meeting that
I
night?
should, yeah, I should
We
be
have a-
back by that evening. I should be back by that evening.
We could do the 23rd was the other date we looked at, right?
I don't want to hold you up.
I don't know, Dennis, were you available on the 23rd? Yeah, I don't care when we do it, to be honest with you.
My
I
office
just-
will be, that's when I have that, so that's fine.
Either day.
The beginning
Oh,
of the
that's right,
22nd,
okay, yeah.
So it's a 3-week try.
The 23rd would, no, but we have budget.
Oh, is that the night of the budget?
Can you make the 22nd, you think, Sue?
Right
Well, then
now, I
let's just
can,
go with the second,
unless
22nd.
something untoward happens. So, yeah, let's go with the 22nd. Okay.
I assume I'll be making that presentation. If this board has anything specifically you'd like me to make sure is in the presentation, you guys have eyes and ears to the town, please let me know, so I make that presentation as, as thoroughly as possible.
Yeah, we'll just get, I'd like to see a copy of the financial assistance agreement prior to that,
Sure.
the documentation.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a draft right now we're looking at. In fact, the developers already commented on that draft. It's got to be co-signed by both parties, so we're already starting to take a look at it.
Okay. So the motion was to have a town meeting at what time?
Well,
On the
I didn't
22nd?
specify a time. Can we do it here?
I'm sorry, can we
Do
do?
those details have to be part of this motion?
Yeah.
Time and
Yes.
location?
Yeah, time and location, yeah.
Can we do it in 133? Are we expecting a large turnout for this one?
I would do it here. You're gonna have, you could have a very large turnout. You could have nobody, but you could have a good turnout.
I mean, do we want to take it to the high school?
I don't think
I don't know, I don't think it's going to be.
I agree.
I got a feeling this will be fine, is my personal feeling, but you never
Okay.
know.
I would recommend we do it here. We have the video, we have the mic, everything's set up.
7? Does
Seven.
that work for
Yes.
everybody? Okay, all right. Let me just restate the motion. That the selectmen schedule a special town meeting to approve, a special town meeting on the 22nd of February 2023 at 7 o'clock in room 133 of Town Hall to approve the demolition and remediation expenditure of the Brownfield project at 20 Station Road not to exceed $1,207,938.
AM or PM? Just want to be exact.
I could use military time.
Aye.
I say aye.
Aye. All right, thank you for that.
Okay.
Phase 4?
Next, Phase 4, Streetscape Phase 4. So this is another update. There we are. So my last update to you was on November 7th, and in the box, which I'm not going to go through, are all the things we talked about for the history of this project going back to August of 2019. It was first a federal TAP grant, then it was a LOTSIP grant, and we've had several town meetings. I've been in front of your board several times. So basically, we put the project on hold in 2021 because of the uncertainty of the Enclave project. So I won't do spend no more time on history. We're going to go on to what's new. Three things have happened since then. The first is on December 3rd, the Still River Greenway Trail study was completed. You may recall that was ARPA money, I think 25,000 or so. And that study recommended that the Phase 4 project be widened to encompass the trail and many other things like canceling Streetscape Phase 6. So that was December 3rd. On January 19th, with that recommendation, the COG approved an additional $264,000 to take away a lot of ledge and add more sidewalk to make Streetscape Phase 4 a Still River Greenway extension for the first time north of the Four Corners intersection. So that moves that project up to a $3.8 million project, of which $450,000 is still the town contribution. That's no change. All of this $264,000 is all LOTSIP money, because it's all going to be construction. So that was January 19th. A week later, the Barnyard construction project started. So you may look out there and see it, 857 Federal and the property north of it are now under construction. We're working with AR Builders, because as we finalize our design and the crosswalks and locations of bus shelters and on and on and on, we want to make sure when their project starts up and ours starts up, it all fits together nicely. So we're working very closely with the folks at the Barnyard. Still a disappointment is the Enclave project. It is still uncertain on which that project's going to do. You may recall that when I presented this to you some time ago, the developer's already purchased 874 Federal. That was Peter's Import. They still haven't closed on 854 Federal, which is, I believe, owned by the McCarty family. And I think because of that uncertainty, that project's not moved forward. So that's going to, we've been waiting for 3 years on the Enclave project, and it's still in limbo, to be honest with you. So that's the update since my last presentation. I'm here tonight to talk about next steps. So I'm not sure we have to have a special town meeting, but to spend the extra $264,000, even though it's all lot SIP, do we have to have a special town meeting for that additional lot SIP expenditure? If we do, I'd like to get it scheduled so we can continue with the timeline. If we have to have that special meeting, I plan in March having a public info session. That corridor is going to look very different when we start construction. We're taking away a lot of ledge. We're adding 3 retaining walls. They're going to have sidewalks now all the way to Newberry Village, and it's going to be a trail extension. So we're going to have another public info session in March. The reason why that's important is 7 of those property owners have to sign off on the easements. And that's a negotiation that takes some work. We need everybody on board on this. So we'll have a public info session in March. We'll finalize the design. We'll purchase the right-of-ways, which is all part of lot SIP funded. We'll go out to bid, and if all of this works according to this piece of paper, we can start construction in the spring of next year. I got to tell you, that's a lot to do if you know how the DOT works. In every one of these requires their approval and their review, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the timeline. If we need a special town meeting or not, I'd like to know, and if we do, I'd like to get that scheduled as well.
Greg, as far as I would assume they're gonna either be blasting or jamming to get that construction work done for the walkway. Approximately how long a time period do you think that would be? Is that gonna be one lane now for a month or for 2 weeks or a week or 3? Are we gonna redirect the traffic?
No, the Federal Road will never close. We may go to alternating lanes if we have to take a lane out because we have to move a sewer line or do something. But Federal Road for this project will never close.
Okay.
We may go to 1-lane alternating lanes, like one section at a time.
Okay.
We did that with Phase 1, and it seemed to work reasonably well.
Yeah.
We did.
People
The
are
sta-
gonna
the state's
be
going to
busy.
not allow us to shut that road down.
No.
Remember,
No,
it's their road.
Yeah.
We have little control over some of the things they tell us what we're going to do, but they're not going to let us shut that road down, I'm almost sure.
Yeah, the only question I have is, we're not increasing the amount of the town's contribution,
Right.
but we are changing the overall scope, so I don't know if we need a special town meeting.
The only issue is, my understanding, the lots of funding, it's still, you still have to get it refunded. There's still obligations upon the town, and we have to meet those obligations and then get the funds once we meet those obligations, correct?
Actually,
then we would need-
with
That's
lot.
my issue with it.
Actually,
Good
with
point.
lot SIP, it's not a refund after the construction's done. They sent a letter, after we received the bids, we go out to bid, they review the bid package, we receive all the bids, we send them we send them all the bids and our recommended lowest qualified bidder. They approve it, and once they approve it, they send us the money before construction starts. But they have to approve the bidder.
I like that.
Yeah, it's
But
still,
I think
it's
we
still an
still-
encumbrance and an obligation to the town with that. So, and with the change in scope, I think you have to have a special town meeting.
Even though it's under the million?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole project is
The whole
over a
project.
But
million,
it's already
so,
been approved twice at over $1 million.
yeah.
This one's coming
To be
in.
safe, I would
It's a-
say we'd have to
It's
do
a
it.
portion of a larger project that's over $1 million. It's an encumbrance of the town. There are obligations that are tied to that. It's not like the money is in the coffers and you're just, it's
Yeah.
guaranteed that we have the complete control over it. There is another entity that has control over it. Given that it's an obligation of the town, the way I'm looking at it is I think you do need a special town meeting.
Can we piggyback this with the first one that we just made on the 22nd?
Do what, I'm sorry?
Can we piggyback this with the one we're doing on the 22nd?
Yes, so I would do them, I was speaking
One
with
after
two
another.
separate special town meetings, two separate notices, open one,
Close
do
the
everything with it, close it, and do the other one. And notice them obviously with enough time in between to do both.
Yep. Yep.
I don't think you're gonna need that much time.
We're not gonna need much time for this streetscape. It's more
So
of
the
a perfunctory.
Do we, so put it before or after 20 Station Road?
I would put it, personally, I would put it before. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but I would put it before.
Yeah.
6:30?
Yeah, I would do it at 6:30. It's not gonna take long.
Okay. All right. Just to go back, just so it's clear, the barnyard side of the road is not going to get streetscape phase 4.
It's not gonna get sidewalk, it's gonna get granite curbing. We're only gonna have sidewalk, just like if you look north of north of the intersection now, there's sidewalk on one side, but there's granite on the other. There'll still be granite all the way up on the barnyard side. There'll also be sidewalks where the barnyard's going and the development north of it, and we're gonna have a pedestrian crosswalk there. This project, the town-funded portion, is not gonna put in sidewalks on the east side, south of the barnyard, or north of the development, just north of it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a little wordy.
So who's paying for the sidewalk in front of the barnyard?
The barnyard project.
Okay.
Just like at 730 Federal Road with the medical center, they're paying for their streetscape because they're going in before we're putting in phase 5.
To town standards.
To town
To match our
standards.
standards.
We were out there
right.
today with them, yep.
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
All right. So, make the motion that the selectmen schedule a special town meeting to, at 6:30 PM on February 22nd, 2023, to authorize here at Town Hall, room 133, to authorize the additional lot zip funding for streetscape phase 4 not to exceed $3,820,000.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Greg.
One more.
Pardon me?
Oh, no.
Number 3?
Yeah.
Got Kristen hopping tonight. So this is the Still River Greenway Trail project. And this one came out of, I gotta tell you, it came out of nowhere a couple weeks ago. I'll let Kristen pull up the presentation. There it is. So my last update to you about the Still River Greenway Trail, not streetscape, was back in November 7th. Same time we talked about phase 4. So as you may recall back then, we hired Stantec with ARPA money. We made a public presentation on the trail extension to New Milford. This is to get to New Milford. On October 20th, 40 attendees. We represented 3 options. A lot of attendees from Newberry Village and Riverview, and they were adamant. You will not put that trail between our buildings and the river. To a person, they were adamant. Okay, we won't do it. That's why Streetscape Phase 4 is widened, because now the trail's gonna be on Federal Road. Okay, that's how we got to that point. So the final report was issued in December. We talked about a scope change for Phase 4. We just got done talking about that. And the trail is now, when we get to Newberry Village, the trail is gonna go to the east side of Federal Road, past Newberry Village, turn east to the river, and then go north along the river to New Milford, where they're gonna come south and meet with us. So that is the plan for the trail after we finish Phase 4 to get to New Milford. That's been estimated at $4 million, and about 8% of a project like this is for design engineering. That's about 320 grand. So what's new since November 7th? 2 things have happened. On December 2nd, Jay Annis gives me a phone call. Jay, you may know, is the Still River Greenway Trail Task Force Chairman. I don't think he's here tonight.
He's well represented.
He's well represented. He goes, hey, Deep just announced a grant for design only for trails. It's the largest grant in the history of the Deep for trails, $9 million grant. 250-point score maximum. Deadline's March 1st, 20% town match for design only. Why don't we design the trail to go to New Milford? When Streetscape Phase 4 is done, how do we get to New Milford? We thought about doing it with the LOTSIP grant. LOTSIP doesn't cover engineering design. LOTSIP just covers construction. This covers the design. So we talked to the folks in the DOT. They said, sure, if you give us a design that meets DOT standards and you pay for it with this DEEP grant, you can use that design and LOTSIP will cover the construction. It's a beautiful marriage. So that happened on December 2nd. On January 27th, I guess that was 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Danbury and from Westcog. Said, hey, IIJA money's available. Well, we all know what that is. There's RAISE money. There's not $800 million of RAISE money. Rebuild America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity is what RAISE stands for. And they said, hey, Brookfield, we'd like to consider going in a regional grant to go from Brookfield all the way down to Norwalk. And you can partner with Danbury and the partners in between to extend the trail south. So that conversation started 2 weeks ago. This will be part of a federal grant. I don't have any more detail to share with you, but I may in a couple months. That's going to be a 20% match. That's a big project. You can imagine how developed we are between Brookfield and Norwalk. So that's a whole nother animal. I just want to give you a heads up on. More to come on that in a couple months down the road.
Because we had applied for a grant in partnership with New Milford and Danbury to design the Still River Greenway, but we got turned down on it. This is great.
North and south.
North
So
and
this-
south,
this-
yeah.
This would take us south going to Danbury. A lot more to come on that. I know very little other than what I'm telling you here. So next steps. So now if we want to, we have a March 1st deadline, which is that 2-3 weeks away. If we want to go with this deep application for the engineering design from Newberry Village to New Milford, I'm suggesting, I'm looking for your approval to allow Tara to sign that grant application for 320. 20% is $64,000 for the design of the trail from basically Newberry Village, the end of Phase 4, all the way to New Milford. These numbers are on the high end. Stantec is now refining their design numbers that'll be part of the application. I've talked to the property owners along the east side of the river today. Shannon Young is one, and there are others, because we need their approval to go on their property to do the design and do the surveying and do the mapping. They all say they're going to give me their level of approval to allow us to do this work if we get the grant. The benefit to the town is we're going to avoid $320,000 of engineering design costs that we would have had to pay if we did this project by LOTSIP. So, this one doesn't need a town meeting. I just want to let you know, here's where we're going. I think we put it in the budget for,
It is, the capital committee has it in the budget going forward. Nothing's been approved yet. This isn't to approve the money, it's just to approve the application.
yes.
Greg, when would that 64K be due, roughly?
When we do the, if we get the grant award, we're gonna have to go to RFP for the engineering services. $300,000 is a lot of money. We'll select a bidder, we'll start the work, maybe this fall, if we get the grant. I gotta tell you, we've not been batting high on grant awards.
So this one's interesting because it's gonna connect us to New Milford, and New Milford is already working to come south.
Right.
I had lunch with Pete Bass last week, and he's really excited to connect, so I really don't see the COG and all others not supporting this and moving it along.
I just got a
The
letter,
worst is we have a little bit of work here
Right.
and no real cost.
I just got a letter today from Lisa Aramissum. She is the New Milford River Trail Association Chairman. And we've got her full-throated support in a letter for this application. I also have a letter from Eric Berthel, the 32nd District Senator, and Marie from the YMCA, and we're expecting another dozen letters of support to go with the application over the next couple weeks.
Cool.
So what we're just setting a date for,
No,
we're
we're
just
gonna
approving
approve
the
the
application.
application.
pardon me?
We
We're
don't
gonna
even have to
approve the
accept the
application.
application.
So it says just in this draft recommended motion up to, but should it say not exceed the 64,000?
I would do, yes, we're not going to, we're not going to exceed those two numbers. That application will not exceed those two numbers. I will make sure of it.
Win-win for us.
Okay. So I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve to submit the application not to exceed the $320,000, including up to $64,000 not exceeding 64,000 of town match for engineering design to extend the Still River Greenway Trail north from Newberry Village on Federal Road to New Milford Town Line.
Under the RAISE program, right?
No.
No,
Right,
that's,
this is for
no,
the
that's,
Danbury.
Oh, okay,
That's south.
okay,
Let's not
okay,
talk about
sorry, want to
Danbury
make
right
sure we
now.
get it right.
We're going north.
I'll second that so we can talk. I have a question.
Okay.
So we're not committing to spending anything.
Right now,
yet.
we're just committing to complete an application and
Okay.
submit it.
Right.
Okay.
And the application spells out these numbers, or?
In the application, we have to include those numbers by a licensed engineer. I'm working with Stan Tech to get those numbers.
Okay,
We still have a couple weeks' worth of work to get this application completed.
by the 1st of March.
Yes.
Okay.
So if or when we get the grant, would we go to a vote, and would we have to go to a town meeting? To
Not for
spend-
$300,000. We don't have to, we could,
Okay.
because you're not over $1 million.
So do you both want to see the application before they submit it on the 1st of March?
Sure, yeah, I'd like to see it.
We'll be together, well, what's the last day of our deliberation?
When it's ready to go, I would just shoot it out.
Email? Okay,
I don't think we'll have any problems with it, but it would be good to see it.
okay. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. And our final presentation of the evening, it is already, time is marching on, the library. We have Jessely Pineda. Good evening.
You can sit there.
Paul Checo.
No, I'm just here promotional.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I know it's late in the evening, or, yeah, it's Monday. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present the final report for Phase 1 of what will be the future Brookfield Community Center. Cassie Dunn was supposed to join me for this presentation, but due to health complications, she's not able to join us. And so Paul Checo will gracefully stand in her place.
She's much better looking than I am.
Okay. We will have packets. Steve, you're doing really good. See that? He's not saying anything. We will have packets to give you at the end of the presentation so that you can review all this information and digest it. Okay? All right. Kristen, we're good. Thank you. So the Brookfield Community Center, our town charged us to do a concept review to determine if our library and Parks and Recreation Department can be combined to build a much-needed community center for our town. And so this concept study was to determine how the Brookfield Library and Parks and Recreation Departments could coexist within a future Brookfield Community Center. It was to review the center school site as the possible location to that community center. It also was to include, to prepare schematic floor plans for construction options and prepare preliminary budget estimates. Okay. So through all the months of collaboration, we have learned the following. The center school site will work for both programs. Yay! The site could allow for a great community center for our town, and the center school will need significant remedial work. Moving to the next slide, we will review some of the findings from the architect.
I'm sorry, where is the study? Who?
We have it in the packet for you to give to you.
Where's the packet?
We have them. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the study is, who prepared this? Is this did you guys do this or the architect?
We prepared this presentation based on their final report.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, yeah, but,
I'd like to see it.
yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I mean, that's what this is about the study.
Right, it's a 40-page study, so we wanted to kind of review it with you first and then give it to you so that you can digest it because it is a pretty lengthy study.
Chief?
We are on slide 4.
Thanks.
Yep. Do you want us to keep going, or?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
great.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so some important observations from the architect include, this is a great property and geographic location within our town. And as we all know, it is a prominent site in the history of Brookfield. Our kids went to center school. This site has adequate parking, outdoor playgrounds, and room for future town needs. There's some things, including a building code review of the overall facility, will be needed for any reuse or reconfiguration. The existing building has public sewer service and an interior sprinkler system. Heating systems, the heating system needs to be evaluated and reconfigured. Central cooling system does not exist and would need to be installed. And some siding, windows, doors, eaves, and gutters will need to be replaced. You can find more of those observations towards the end of that report that you're looking at right now, if you're looking at it. The next slide, we're going to go over the architect order of magnitude budget estimates, okay? These are his recommended estimates. So option 1 is the existing structure, 63,300 square feet, which includes a complete gut, enclosing the courtyards, code upgrades, but no reconfiguration for departments, meaning the space inside the classroom settings and everything will stay the same. And that range is $6 to $8 million budget range. Option 2 is the existing structure, which is 70,000 square feet, which includes a complete gut, enclosing the courtyards, code upgrades, rear additions for community space, reconfigure 4 departments, and that budget range is $13 to $15 million. The last option is option 3, which is all new construction, 70,000 square feet, which is complete demolition, new construction, and that is a $17 to $19 million budget range. Now, none of these options include furniture, fixtures, and equipment or soft costs, okay? The architect recommends total demolition and new construction as the most practical and best value. That is his recommendation.
Why the recommendation of enclose the courtyard? What does that mean exactly?
That would add 11,000 square feet. So right now it's 52,000 square feet plus the 11.
So that would be able to accommodate the requirements of the programs.
Please remember, this is a concept review, and these prices may change as we go more in depth in phase 2. These are the architect recommendations, again, for all 3 options. Okay, so this is, to give everyone a visual, here is the current layout of the center school.
I'm sorry, Jesselie,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
before you move on. So as far as these estimates, is there a breakout in this packet of pricing to how they came to these dollar amounts?
So towards the end of that packet that you have there, it's maybe in the last 4 or 5 pages, you should have more details to those estimates.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, we wanted to give you kind of an overview of what the estimates were. There's more in there.
Thank you.
There's a lot in there.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So to give everyone a visual, this is the current layout of the center school. Now that we have the architect's recommendations, we want to give you a visual of what the Center School Ad Hoc Committee recommended. This is how this all started. So this is the proposed space allocation from the Center School Ad Hoc Committee. When we moved into phase 2, our goal is to perform a detailed review of the space needs studies to identify modifications and savings in square footage and budget. We want to fit in the current square footage of the site, and working with professionals in phase 2 will help us accomplish this.
What is the breakdown in square foot between the two?
So in this layout, based on the Center School Ad Hoc Committee report, is you're looking at 14,000 square feet for Parks and Rec, and you're looking at 40,000 square feet for the Brookfield Library. And that's in, you have a report there from the Center School Ad Hoc Committee as well.
And 15, okay.
Again, that is their recommendation. We're looking to modify that with a detailed space needs study for both programs.
So with the Park and Rec, would this also include any type of community center or storage or what?
That's a little of a bit of a preliminary question, Howard. Basically, what this phase is, and during this presentation, was the proof of concept that both programs programmatically can be housed, and what would be the approximate square footage. I mean, it's really in its infancy right now, and very similar to the process we did on the new school project.
But Harry, our goal is to have space for the community.
In going through here, I see there's like 8 meeting rooms for people to have meetings. There's a couple community rooms in the detail. Okay.
That's our goal.
Again, it's proof of concept. These things can change based on
Absolutely.
input from the community.
Correct. Steve, you're jumping ahead to mine.
Sorry.
And so we wouldn't know until later where those facilities would be, either storage or community center, whether it would be on the library side or the Park and Rec.
Correct, because we're waiting for that input from the community first. We want to meet the needs of the community first, and then we can see Jenga a little bit and move some things around.
It would be good, if we could move through the balance of the presentation.
Sure.
Some of the questions may be answered, but then we can actually refer back to some of the presentation to answer the questions.
Sure.
So we want to give you now the proposed timeline. Okay, so right now, we're in Q1, and the reason for the proposed timeline is so that we can see the entire project and how long this actually will take, okay? So right now, we're in phase one completed in Q1, yay! It will take us, if we move forward with phase 2, it will take us 6 months to hire an architect. So let's say the RFP and the bids go out in July, we will be able to hire an architect in 2024, okay? Now, phase 2 includes input solicited from Brookfield residents, schematic design and design development of construction budget, preparation of design development drawings. Now, in phase 2, with the drawings, we will be able to apply for the library grant, okay, like we've done in the past. And Parks and Rec also can apply for various grants, as well as the historical preservation grant application as well. So there's several grants that we can start submitting once we get in further into phase 2, okay? Now, phase 2, you would notice, goes from 2024 to hopefully town referendum in 2026, okay? Now, during phase 2, remember, the same way the school held their focus groups and input from the entire community, that's our goal with the community center, is get as much input as possible. Allow them to be part of the process. So when we go to referendum, it's something that everyone was aligned on so that we can move forward with phase 3. So phase 3 would begin in RFP, again, potentially putting it out to bid again. If we wanted to move forward with a different architect in July of 2026, we would hire the architect in late Q4 of 2026. And that would include in phase 3 preparation of construction drawings, construction contract administration, and building construction, okay? So construction would really happen from July 2028 to Q4 to 2029, okay? That means that the project would be bonded in Q1 of 2030, okay? And just as a little point at the bottom there, the high school bond will be paid in 2026. Okay, so just so you can, we talked about this in our last presentation, for you to work backwards, right? And this is to show you why it's vital for us to move forward with phase 2, so that we can have this actually done for our community by Q1 2030. All right, so we have now 2 recommendations affirming the center school site as the best location for the Brookfield Community Center, okay? Obviously, we're recommending next steps is that we move into phase 2, okay? Phase 2 will include gathering of significant community input, preparation of space needs reports and design development drawings, preparation of the construction budget, and preparation and planning for grants and fundraising efforts. The capital committee recommended already allocating $150,000 to move forward with phase 2. Let's review some of the benefits to consider the town in the next slide. Now, some of the benefits that we know will occur from building or from moving forward to phase 2 is completing phase 2 will give us the opportunity to make a plan and not allow the current building to remain empty, right? We would have a right-sized library to match state guidelines and the needs of Brookfield residents. The Parks and Recreation Department will have their own space for indoor programs and activities when schools are in session. Right now, they cannot use this space when school is in session, and they're missing a big demographic because of it. They're only able to offer, for example, adult classes in the schools afterwards in the evenings, okay? Reallocating these two departments would allow the town to reallocate space to other departments, okay? So if there's other departments that are growing, they can move into the current buildings that are housing Parks and Rec and the Brookfield Library. That is our presentation. Questions, please.
So when all those center school students move over to the new Candlewood Lake School, that's scheduled for July, right? That building will become available right now as is, right? So Parks and Rec and even a library could, with no changes to the building, because we do plan on, we have to heat the building, just maintain it
Right.
at a certain level. They could start using that right now, correct?
Well, there are change of use things that have to be looked at, but I think they're minimal. I talked to Demi about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're minimal too.
And this is something that we discussed at the joint library
Right.
and Parks and Rec meetings, was that, Harry, you're correct, it would be a change of use or occupancy. Maybe a formality in the town, it is a necessary step to go through.
Yeah.
But we spoke about this at length. What potential uses can we find to expand the two programs? Albeit it's not ideal space, but to get people used to going there as this combined community center. Long term, is it a fix? No. But in the short term, we could have some use of that space for both of these departments, whether it be reading rooms for the library, whether it be Parks and Rec and adult programs. But we want to, really, the intent there is get people used to going there so that when and if a referendum does come out, it would be positively supported because they've already identified that location as a community center.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, Center Elementary School is an integral part of this town. And a lot of people are attached to that school. Their children went to it, their children's children went through it. It is something that we have to preserve and determine how we're going to use it. And to continue to use it as is, I think is a very good idea, because that will only add to our discussion as what's the best use for this building, right? We know we need more space for the library. We know we need more space for Parks and Rec program. There are probably Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, lacrosse clubs, soccer club. There are so many organizations in town, and Tara told me if this isn't true, they ask for meeting space, we say we don't have it.
Or even ask for
We-
club space.
Yeah, so I think as we go through this discussion, I think it's very, very important to keep this building open now, to pay to maintain it, to heat it. We do not want this building to deteriorate any further. And that'll be a marginal cost.
I agree with that.
Right, we're gonna have to heat it. And let's start using it, and that will also engender the discussion of groups coming in and saying, well, you know, boy, if we could do this, we would do, if we had the space, we could do this. I think Parks and Rec would find a lot of things to
One
do.
of the things, though, is that if we move in to keep it healthy
Yeah.
and usable, right? Then what? If we decide later to demo, we gotta move out.
I wouldn't say it's a move in, it's
Yeah.
a supplemental space.
Right. So we could do, we talked about like having maybe the movie night there from the library, right? Because anything else would require more staffing, right? So we would have to increase our budget for more staffing because we need 2 people there from the library if we're having any other programs and keep the staffing, the current staffing of the current library as well. So when you're dividing that for supervision,
Yeah.
you'll need the staffing. So we can do definitely, separate events. I mean, we have Debbie, our interim director here, also that can speak more to that, and on certain ideas, because we definitely have discussed it.
We're having this problem now with the Candlewood Lake School and Huckleberry, and we're already down, we're gonna be down one whole building. Both for our students, and that's okay, we've held that. But Parks and Rec, I believe, runs programs in almost every single one of our school buildings, right? And we're losing a building. So we have to find more space just to stay where we are, right, with programs, with after-school, but whatever programs you're running.
And I think the talk of demolition really is preliminary. I think much like the study we did on the new elementary school, getting that community input, maintaining certain portions of that building that may be historic in nature and that the community has a particular affinity for, while studying the balance, how can the balance be reimagined, whether through renovation or, partial demolition and reconstruction. That's really what that phase 2 is designed to do.
Yeah.
Have that community input, bring the town together, both the Parks and Rec, library, all the user groups, and see what the will of the community is about.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we did with the schools, when we had all those informational meetings, where the Board of Ed said, come in, tell us what your kids need, tell us, I think those were critically important. One, to build a good school that meets the needs, and two, to advocate for our students, right? And I think doing that for this would be a big plus.
At your meeting that you mentioned earlier, was Laura Murphy, was Laura?
No,
there?
she was I think, so she had just started maybe 2 days before that. And she had a family emergency that evening, so she could not attend just yet. I have not met Laura just yet, but I look forward to meeting her soon.
Shall we throw her into the fire?
Mary Knox came into that meeting, as did Cassie Dunn.
She's on it. I was with her for an hour today. She needs to be brought into the fold and kept there.
Oh,
Yep.
for sure.
Listen,
I agree.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're doing a lot of talking about moving Parks and Rec in there, and you guys can use it for movie night, that's fine, but I don't understand. If we keep it occupied, how will the library move in? Are we there yet? What are we doing right now?
We're not there yet. We're not keeping it occupied, we're using it as supplemental space.
Right.
It's to expand program, to see what programs may work and not work in the future, both in Parks and Rec and Library, what garners some public support. It's not that the library's gonna move into that space.
Right, we can't move books and have programs there.
I probably misspoke, though, because the library, and I'm gonna do what we're not supposed to do. The library could find uses for space in that building right now. Am I correct, Library Board? Without making a lot of changes. So the answer to that is yes. I spoke about Parks and Rec, but library runs a lot of programs that they could use extra space.
Well,
We're
there's-
making no changes whatsoever to the building,
There's a
except getting the approval of.
children's library in the school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have 2 library locations, then you need 2
Staffing.
directors, staff, you have to staff.
You-
Yeah.
we have to
Well, we
staff.
already have a children's library director.
No, but we need to staff, so this is, remember, supplemental. This is in addition to what we currently
Again,
have.
we're kind of getting way
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I agree.
Of where we are.
Well, are we?
Yeah.
Right.
It's all part of the conversation. I mean, if
No,
we're
I-
talking
it
about
is part of
moving
the
into phase
conversation.
2 and you're asking for $150,000 and he just said we can't even afford a $65,000 dollar generator.
I said out of the
I
budget.
mean, what is it we're trying to do here?
There's a difference.
This is out of the budget. The capital committee approved
No, this would be part of the normal budget process.
Yeah, but it's still part of the
We're not
taxes.
approving $150,000 tonight.
It's still part of
Bottom
the
line
taxes.
is-
The bottom line is, whether it's capital or whether it's operational, it's part of the taxes, so
Right.
it's 150,000.
All I'm saying is I've heard a lot of talk about moving Parks and Rec in there and then the library using it for programs.
Again, we didn't say we were moving Parks and Rec in there. We're saying both, they would be using it as supplemental space, to be able to use it as program space and maintaining the asset instead of letting the asset belong to the street.
Right, instead of it being
Because you
completely
have to
empty.
eat and maintain.
Because there's one other option that's not in Doyle and Coffin's report, which is rent or sell the property. It is a
That
town
wasn't
building,
Yeah,
but
that wasn't.
that is an
part of our-
option that we should
Yeah.
consider as well.
That's an option for the board of selectmen to consider.
That's right.
Right, and I think, as a taxpayer in the town and as my children went to center school, both my children did, it would break my heart to us to rent that out to someone outside of our town.
Oh, there's a lot of sentimental attachments. Huckleberry's gonna be brought to the ground, so.
No, I understand that. Well, I'm just saying, I understand the attachment that the town has with the site and appreciate it, and I think it would be better used to transition into a community center, because they're still
I don't
going into that
disagree.
site.
I don't disagree. I'm just putting it out there that we are broke as a joke until 2030. So we have to be very smart and strategic about
Right.
what it is we're doing.
And that's why the timeline, it shows you a little bit about how far this is 7 years out, so that we can, why phase 2 is the right time now to do this now. Just because we do phase 2 now, that's when we'll be bonding the project in 2030. You said earlier, you keep kicking the can down the road. This can's been kicking for quite some time between our Parks and Rec department
Yeah.
and the library.
So to that point, there are other needs. Just because we want a new library doesn't mean we necessarily need it, right?
This is a community center. This is not just a library. This is a community center for our town. So I don't want it to be labeled as just a library. It's not just a library. It's a place for everyone in our town to be able to go to.
So what is a community center?
It's a center, it's a place where, whether you want to go read a book or do an activity with your family, that's where you can go. You have different resources in one location. Whether you're reading a book with your child, while your other child's doing a program for softball, or maybe a parent has a softball meeting and they want to leave them in a children's program with the library that they're hosting.
So
We need additional meeting space.
Right? It's a place where high school students can go study with their friends for finals.
Again, the intent of the phase 1 study was really proof of concept and reaffirming what the Center School Ad Hoc Committee had found was that the potential reuse of Center School as a library and additionally a Parks and Rec Center was feasible. And here are 3 potential options. Along with it are rough order magnitude costs, probable cost of construction. That's it. I mean, when we get into phase 2 and then post-bond, that's really when the rubber hits the road on design and what are we actually looking for in a building. And that doesn't mean phase 2 that it goes to referendum. If phase 2 move forward, you may say, yeah, referendum, this may be too rich for the town. Are we headed into recession? Aren't we headed into recession? We don't know. If we knew that, we probably wouldn't be sitting here, we'd be a hell of a lot richer than we are. But,
So basically, the $30,000 study was to say, can we put a Parks and Rec / community center /
Do our programs
Li-
fit on the site?
library fit on the site?
Mhm.
And here are examples of how it could.
and the space needs assessment.
Yeah.
It
Pardon
came
me?
up- And the space needs assessment, because they took the programs from both.
Now, we did not assess the space, though, did we?
We did.
Okay,
The space needs assessment, they took the programs from both.
right.
Both from Parks and Rec and the library, looked at it, came up with this ballpark number. And both the library and the Parks and Rec commissions are actively engaged right now and saying, hey, if there's a potential that this moves forward, how can we best have spaces that have duplicate needs? How can we kind of condense this all a little bit? And that's part of that phase 2 study. How do we find the overlap in these programs, lay out the programmatic studies, and find the best efficiencies we can for the least cost and maximize the gain?
So this was the only
I-
product
I-
from the architect?
Harry, I know you're feeling, John.
Yeah, I just don't, I mean, you
Don't
could have
have
come to me and I could have said you could put this here. Now, could I give you details? No.
Mm.
Okay, but, and I think, I went over some things with Mr. Archer. We spent an hour together, and I love what I saw. But I don't think those drawings would have cost, $30,000. So,
I think that's an unfair assessment, Harry.
yeah, it probably is.
You're-
It probably is.
No,
I-
no,
I-
that's
it-
an unfair assessment.
well,
Okay, so this is the only product that we got? This is our,
Yes.
so there's
Thank you
nothing
for
to
this.
substantiate? I mean, there's 15 pages of pictures here. Demi could have gone and done this.
If you keep going, you'll find more information.
Maps. So there's nothing to substantiate any of these bullets or any substance to what they're saying? Basically, they're saying what the pictures say. You need a new air conditioning system. Okay, well, so what? we spent $30,000 on this PowerPoint presentation. That's what we received for $30,000.
No, what we received for $30,000 for him to assess the space in our programs so that he can tell us if they were a fit for the site.
Yeah, with all due respect, I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree, but I respectfully don't agree, and I don't want to.
You don't agree with,
And I possibly don't understand everything what you're saying, Paul, so that's why I'm fine. I do thank you for the presentation. I do thank you for what you gave.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Central School History. Wow, are we still on the front page? We are.
Are you going to keep the meeting going?
I certainly am. It would have been nice to have this before the meeting. Okay, so announcements.
Monthly agendas.
Moving on to item 6. Thursday night, I added this, that the Board of Ed will be hosting a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and Board of Ed to present their
Hey,
budget.
folks, can we please have a quiet? Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean it.
Coffee will be on the 25th of February from 9 to 10 at the cafe, which I'm looking forward to going to. I haven't been there yet. Vacancies on boards and commissions still exist, being the Arts Commission, the Board of Assessment Appeals, which we're going to get after later tonight, the Energy Advisory Board, which we will also address later, Housing Authority, Inland Wetlands, Lake Winona Authority, Library Board of Trustees, Municipal Building Committee, Planning Commission, and WPCA. The budget process is underway. We've mentioned that earlier tonight. And I already mentioned the Board of Ed will have their meeting at 6:30 in the BHS Media Center on Thursday at 6:30. Attached in the packet is a...
Well, and the youth.
Yeah,
Commission.
that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, I'm
Is a
sorry.
letter from the Youth Commission when they buried their time capsule. It was an awesome event. I happened to be there. And they are going to file this with the historians in town. And maybe one day that time capsule will be dug up and somebody can see COVID test kit is in there and some other interesting things. I think they have pictures on a flash drive, which is pretty cool. So take a look at that letter, and thanks to the Youth Commission for all the hard work that they do, for I'm still here. Correspondence is listed under item B on the agenda for monthly agenda items. Any questions on correspondence or updates? No? Letter C, Vale Road Tower, that was addressed earlier with some public comment, but they had 2 meetings of the Siting Council. The straw vote was unanimously approved for the tower to be built at 620 Vale Road, or 60 Vale Road.
Thank you.
And then, good night.
Good night.
And then the Siting Council unanimously approved it again on the 2nd of February. Residents gathered here last week and had an educational forum, and I submitted a letter to Senator Blumenthal, and I'm working on a resolution and a potential moratorium to request that 5G be kept out of Brookfield and the small cell towers that are coming. Any questions or discussion on that?
It just baffles me what the state is doing to the residents. I can imagine as painting contractor, I went to Hartford and said I have developed my multimillionaire company, we have paint that we can use in homes. You'll never have to paint the inside of your house again, but I can't tell you if it's gonna be any damage to you. I don't have any studies proving that it's not gonna be damaging. You know, I'd have to dust myself off after they kicked me out of the building. I just cannot believe that we can't have, if this is a safe product, then why can't we be told in person by the state that it's a safe product? Besides the fact, I don't want every 300 feet on every other telephone pole an antenna. So I don't know what the next step is, but to me, it's disgusting. And it's unbelievable that we can be manhandled like this and basically told that you don't have a door out or a way out. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I don't get the sense that the residents of Brookfield are gonna stop, and if anybody can do it, it's Brookfielders, so I give them a lot of credit for trying, and I'm right there to
I hope
support
so,
them in their
but
endeavors.
I certainly hope so. Thank you.
It's an uphill battle, I will say. Do you wanna give an update on the cemeteries, Harry?
Yeah, the cemeteries in town are run by a committee or a commission, and that has dwindled to one person, and that one person has currently resigned. So really I don't know the exact timeline, but there really has been very little, if any, oversight with the cemeteries. And we went through this with Steve as first selectman, and the state has no answer. There is no commission, to my knowledge, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, or Tara, there really are no guidelines. There's no program, there's no one to go to. So what we're doing is, I'm getting phone calls from people who want to know how they can get someone buried. Right now, the Central and Laurel are closed because of the winter, as far as being able to do burials. We're trying to, I'm approaching New Milford. I think we have someone who can do the maintenance, dig the graves, take care of the graves. I'm not sure if that includes like weekly mowing or whatever, but I'm going to be talking with Pete Bass to see if we can use those people to do the outside work. As far as administrative work, I've been speaking with the woman who is in charge of St. Mary's Cemetery down in Ridgefield, and I got off the phone. She told me it took her years to straighten out the mess. She had boxes of paperwork and bills and whatever, but she has straightened it out. It's all computerized, but it's a real project to get there. So I am I'm going to be working with her to and I'm not involved in this, I'm just trying to take something off, something that we can try to get to a ground zero to get started moving forward. So I'm going to be meeting with her this week through Zoom and try and maybe incorporate a couple people to see the best way of getting administratively, how do we get started and where do we go? Some of the advice that I got was not to go to the state, to ask them to intervene in here because you'll never get done. It's like the DOT or anything else, they send 15 people to do a 2-man job and it doesn't get done for 3 months. So that's where we are right now. It is a very, very, very involved and complicated situation. And right now there is no one in charge of the cemeteries. And I think that's about all I can tell you right now. Hopefully in March, or excuse me, in our next meeting, the March meeting, we'll have a little bit of detail as how we're going to move forward. Because right now we're just trying to get to ground zero to where we can start to move forward and get out of this mess. But it is a mess. And it's not a mess for Brookfield. This is a mess statewide and nationwide. There are many, many cemeteries who are in this condition. We have gone to the diocese and they do not want to take over the to my knowledge, they do
No,
not.
no, the diocese will take over
Oh, well, yeah, yeah,
collecting all the fees.
Collecting all
And
the
we
fees.
get all the expense.
and we get all the expense.
You know, we've talked to the associations for many years, and the first thing I said to them was, just for history, is the town will certainly look at taking over the cemeteries. Here's the issue we have. Cemeteries are run as trusts. People give the cemeteries a lot of money to buy a grave site. They may not need it for 50 years. It is the cemetery's responsibility to keep that money, to invest it, and be ready to open up that grave when that person dies or whomever they're putting in there dies. So the cemetery should have a trust fund, I think they have more than one, that is there to maintain the property, to make sure the monies that people have given them are safeguarded, and also to pay for the day-to-day mowing, trimming, plowing, all of those sorts of things. I have asked in the past, when I had these discussions with the cemeteries, the town will consider taking over these cemeteries. Show me your numbers. Show me how much money you have in the bank, show me how many burials, how many disinterments, how much your plowing is, how much your grass cutting is, right? So the town can get an idea, if we take over this responsibility, what it would cost us. They never gave us the numbers. They just wouldn't give it to us. Then they came to us with the Diocese of Bridgeport, and they were more than willing to take it over if they collected all the fees for interments and all buying plots and everything. But all maintenance, all costs, all of that would be on the town. That's a non-starter for me, because you don't know what you're giving up and what you're paying. It just doesn't make any sense.
And when
So I agree with you. This needs, and it's true across the state, this is a mess. And the state has done nothing, virtually less than nothing. What they did was, after they had the mess in Danbury, where the lady was running the cemetery, and it seems like money went missing, is they made it a felony if you made a mistake as an operator of a cemetery. You know how many people put their hands up and said, I'm out, I'm a
No one
volunteer,
wants to
I'm
be
out.
involved now because you could be liable to
Yeah.
a felony. And when we do get this information, we have been trying for months and months to get the information. When we get it, it's going to be boxes of paper. Nothing is on file, nothing is computerized. So,
I'm saying we should not take, if
Right.
they want to give
Well,
us copies of it,
no, when I say-
fine. I don't want to take their stuff.
no, when I'm talking about getting copies, just so that we know,
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware too, I mean, this is a private company. I mean, this is a non-stop corporation that was incorporated in the state of Connecticut, I think in the early 1800s. So, and I know that because I had to request the certificate of incorporation. I certainly couldn't get it online, so I had to get a special request, and it was written in very fancy calligraphy, which I could barely read, but I'm pretty sure it's a non-stock corporation. Harry has been working diligently with me to try to see if we can assist in giving options on how they can move forward, but it's important to note that this is a private company. They are formed in the state of Connecticut. They have options that, irrespective of what the town does, that we have informed the cemetery of those options, explain that they have the ability to seek independent counsel to avail themselves to those options, which could be helpful. I think the problem that the cemetery and the town would have is people who would be ready, willing, and able to serve either as officers and directors of the cemetery if they're replaced, or if there's jurisdiction for the town to take over, of which I'm still looking into, of which I'm not convinced there is. It's still gonna be an issue for people in the town to wanna have volunteers to come take on that responsibility.
right, and when I say when we get the information, I don't mean for us to take it over. I mean so that we can hand it over to our legal counsel and help us decide where are we gonna go with this, how, because you're right, and you know, Jeff has told me,
As a community, I think.
he cannot, he has been trying for months to get someone to be willing to come in.
Well, in the meantime, it's a big issue because people continually call the office and say, oh, I live in North Dakota, but my uncle just died and he's supposed to be buried at Laurel Hill.
Right.
And
They're
Ginny
calling
and
me.
I were like, we
That's a
probably had
problem.
20 calls like that.
And the other, the other thing, as far as money goes, what this gal has done down at St. Mary's is, they're set for like 100 years with their finances, because once, you have to also take into consideration perpetual care. Once once it's full and there are no more lots, you still have to take care of that property. You still have to maintain it. Yeah, so.
And I think we all agree.
We got the grant for
The
that.
town has a vested interest in making sure that our cemeteries are well taken care of. How we do it is really, really important.
And we're,
because it's
we
a-
hopefully are
it
at
goes
least.
forever.
We hopefully
It goes
are
forever.
at least approaching the first step here to where we can.
Good
try to
luck.
move forward. Anyways, that's where we are.
Well, it's in good hands. Keep up the
Well, I've
good
had
work,
4
Harry.
calls about people wanting, you know, have their ashes, get brother's ashes, and they want to bury them, and how do I do it? I said, I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, but I can't help you with that.
What's your home number when people need help?
One of the ideas, not for nothing, is once that last grave is filled, that's already been purchased, maybe even though there's still land there, like no moss until we
Yeah, it's,
get a handle on all this?
okay.
You
All right.
still need to cut the grass, you still need to pave, you still need to plow.
Well, that's a lot easier than actually
If
like.
a gravestone
trying to
falls over,
bury
whose
people.
responsibility is it to put it back up?
And we have 3 cemeteries that have been closed for a very long time.
There's actually 9 in town.
Yeah.
I know, but there's, the old ones have been closed for a long time, and we still need to
Yeah.
do just exactly what
Yeah.
you're saying, Steve.
Yeah.
And they haven't been. I mean, you know,
So that's my
Okay.
report.
and
Yeah.
that's a huge.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the update. The Historical Society grant, last month Jackie Salem gave us a, update, and we all were kind of in agreement with her that we should go for it. There's no match for $20,000. So, but we didn't take it to vote.
It's a historic district commission, not,
I'm sorry.
well, it says historical society, but I want to correct that.
We did. Why don't you make your motion so we can discuss it? Why don't you make the motion so we can open it and discuss?
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the selectmen are in support of the application for the $20,000 non-matching Historic District Commission Preservation Enhancement Grant to enable a study to be done for the establishment of the Brookfield Historic District Number 2.
I'll second it.
I see in the packet there is an application, but it's dated 2022.
We haven't done the application yet.
Yeah. Is this a sample of?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the, yeah, exactly.
So, what, we just got this, so I haven't looked at it, but, so with the 20,000, what types of things would be looking?
Can you come up to the, because people,
yeah.
yeah, please, thank you.
What type of things will you either be talking about or discussing or looking at doing, or what, do you have any idea what the?
Yes,
And who are you, young lady?
I am Jacqueline Salem, and I am Chair of the Historic District Commission,
Okay, thank you.
which this year it's 50 years of the Historic District.
Congrats.
Yeah.
And we've been there for 50 years. Anyway, so what we'll be doing is, if we get, I just want you guys to approve the grant, because obviously we don't want to go through the application process without, do all that work. So I'm sure that we will get the grant. So then what happens is, once all the paperwork is done and that's all approved and signed, then what we'll do is send out an RFP, actually for an architectural historian to do a study of the area. So it'd be a study report to establish a new historic district. So they do the study report. I'm confident that we definitely have a new historic district there, because many, many years ago, it was taken up and then it was kind of, sort of dropped. And so after they do that study report, that's what we'll use for the basis. They'll submit that to the state, that they'll review it, they'll accept the report, and then what we'll do is then, go ahead and go through the process of establishing the historic district, which means we need 2/3 of a vote of the property owners to establish the district.
So are you talking town-wide, or is this basically?
In the Ironworks area.
So you're talking about the Ironworks area?
Ironworks area,
We
yes.
just had that presentation last.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, because there are 2 districts.
We have one district already.
Right.
Right,
This would be to establish the second.
The second
historic
one.
district.
the second district. So this would be to establish a local district, all the buildings are already on the Connecticut State Register.
And this will be based on history, the town history, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it'd be the historical significance of the area and the, the buildings within it.
Okay, all right.
So that's, so I don't want to, start the process, I just want to make sure, I want you guys to be behind it, and then we'll go from there.
Does it go, is it possible that it could go across 7 onto Station Road? Because I thought somebody had told me at one point that part of that was at one point part of the historic district.
Well, there wasn't a historic district. I mean, yes, it was because the original town commercial center and in, the late 1700s to early 1800s was that whole area down there. I mean, there were several houses. There's still a few left, but there were a lot of historic buildings, up Route 7,
Right.
down Route 7, across Station Road. I think when I gave you the original thing, that there was an 18, I'm not sure if it's 50s, 60s map of the ironworks area.
Yeah.
The only thing that looks odd on there, obviously, is that, the road wasn't the way it was, and actually the railroad tracks were on the opposite side of the road than they are now, so it's a
And will
little
this
hard to get
affect-
oriented.
Will this
but-
affect zoning at all?
Affect zoning? What it will mean is that, if it gets approved, is that if, anybody, they want to do any work on those buildings, they'll have to come to the
Right.
Historic District Commission.
Okay.
Just,
Right.
like now.
Okay.
I
Have to go to
think it-
zoning and you.
Zoning and us, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
And zoning won't hear it unless,
Historical.
the
has-
district approve,
Right.
because there's no point in going through the process.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, sure.
That was my
Appreciate it.
only-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Marcia,
All right.
the moment you've been waiting for.
Got about 45 minutes of presentation. But I'll make it really short. You had the December reports last month. We're still closing and balancing January, which ended 6 days ago. So you'll have those reports on the 8th. There's really no significant changes from last month as far as overages. We believe we can offset them with underages. For the budget for 2024, you have the budget workbooks in front of you. The state revenue won't be out until the 8th. So right now, that's got a big red mark on it that we don't know. Generally doesn't change much, certainly doesn't go up. And I still have to print out and put tabs in the capital workbooks for you. That's it. Any questions?
I have none.
I have none. That was a quick 24 minutes. You must be really interesting, because it went by like.
It did. Time flies when you're having fun.
Wow.
All right, thank you for the update. We look forward to moving toward the budget. Consent agenda. I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve items alpha through delta.
It's actually A through E, sorry, Tara.
Yep.
Yeah, A through E.
And take note of the calendar for budget deliberations.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I
Wait,
have,
You said alpha, delta, there's an E also.
Yeah,
Sorry,
which
did
is-
you update that?
yes.
You said A to D,
Yeah,
but there's
we
also an E.
corrected that. Or yes, I agreed. So I'd
We're
like
gonna
to
add
make
Edward.
I
a
just wanna make
motion
sure.
that we approve items alpha through echo on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second? Anybody?
Oh, yes.
Thank
No,
you.
I thought I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our monthly additional items, moving on to 9 alpha, there's 3 items under 9 alpha, which are town policies, and these are just a few items that have been brought to our attention, and they require some change, and 1 is new. So 2 for change and 1 are new. All 3 were reviewed by Labor Council and approved by Labor Council. The first one we went over, I think it was last summer, for the increase of the time that retired police officers can work. We agreed at that time to the 1250. So this is just a policy that substantiates what we decided on several months ago. The second policy is a change of one word and one sentence added regarding our reimbursement for mileage. And that would be under 1 alpha, where it says reimbursable. We've added the word current per mile rate established by the IRS. And then 1 bravo was added. The town shall reimburse based on the mileage over what is between the employee's home and the regular work location. So an example of this is I drive 100 miles round trip every day, but tomorrow I'm asked to drive an additional 10 miles to Danbury. Under the current policy, I would be reimbursed for the full 110 miles, even though it's only 10 miles longer. So with this new policy, we're suggesting that we're reimbursed for only the extra 10 miles for that travel. Clear as mud?
Yep.
And then the third one is the work from home arrangements. So this is a policy, again, it's new, we haven't had this before, but it's needed. It would obviously be on a case-to-case basis, and would have to be approved with documentation.
I just had, I have no problem, I had one question on this.
Sure.
An approval of the HR director and the first selectman. Let's say the HR director says yes and says no, and you want to say yes.
Well, okay, I guess that's words. So the
I think the final
protocol
approval
would be-
should be in the office
Yeah.
of the first. Don't you agree?
Yes, so
It's a little-
if somebody needs to give substantiating documentation from a doctor, that would go through the HR director, and then I would be apprised of the situation and then make the final
And
decision.
prove it. But for a normal work from home, you don't want the situation where the,
No, the HR director shouldn't have the approval, so that doesn't.
right, that's my only
Yeah.
point on that. It would be confusing.
So,
So you,
how would I say that? Recommendation.
an approval of the first selectman,
Yeah.
first select woman. Or you could even put in, and recommendation of the HR director with final approval by the first selectman.
That's what it should
Right.
say. Something like that, yep. Recommendation
Right,
and
does that make sense?
substantiating documentation if necessary from HR director. Okay. Any other changes or recommendations
No.
on any of
No.
these?
No, I think that's fine.
We have to do these individually, correct?
Yes. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the selectmen approve the Town of Brookfield pension plan policy for retiree time and attendance.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make the recommendation that the motion that the selectmen approve the Town of Brookfield out-of-pocket expense reimbursement for meeting and travel expenses.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make the motion that the selectmen approve the Town of Brookfield policy on work-from-home arrangements.
As adjusted tonight.
That's correct.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on to item 10 Bravo, the lease for the 43 Silver Mine Road property. So, this property went up for renewal last year at this time, and at that time, we decided not to increase the rent. So it's been set at the $17.50. Last March, I gave you the sheet with
Yeah.
the assessor's fair market range, and it came in between $2,100 and $3,000 for equivalent properties. So the median would be $2,600, which is right in the middle of this. The low end and the high end were based on homes in relative same condition and location.
I had just one question on this. For the properties we're listing as comparables, is this what they're asking, or is that what it's renting for right now? See the 2,600?
I believe that's what they're renting for right now.
Okay, because this looks like this is available, okay.
Is that the Grimes property?
List price is per month.
Yeah, I read that as being what they're getting for rent.
Okay.
So I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve the 43 Silvermine Road residential lease agreement that expires on February 15th, 2023 and ends February 14th, 2024 for a one-year term with a current rent of $1,750 and a proposed rent of $2,000, which would be an increase of $250 from the current rate.
So Tammy is recommending 2,600.
Well, that's the median of the range.
That's the median, right. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, increasing somebody 40% is, you can do it incrementally if it still goes up.
2,100, I think, was the low end of that range. 20.
Yeah. And you want to make it 2,000?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
And I think that,
I'm fine with that. That's
you know,
reasonable.
It's a $250 increase.
yeah,
That's
and, yeah, I mean, it's still very,
15% increase.
still very reasonable.
Yeah.
But,
That's
you
reasonable.
know, and they, I don't
The
know if we
market
should
is
make
what
them
the
aware of the
market is.
fact that it
Did
will
somebody
probably go up
second
again
that
next
motion?
year.
Oh, I'll second that motion. Sorry.
Paragraph 6 has a section in it talking about obligations of the tenant for an initial small amount for repairs.
Yeah.
I put that in there. It could be, you know, I could take it out if it's the pleasure of the board, or we would
I
have to
read that.
insert a number if we wanted to do that. I put that in residential leases sometimes because it maybe makes tenants a little bit more weary of making, you know, problems. Not that
Yeah.
there was, I'm not saying that there was, but
I
in
don't think,
general.
I don't
Do our
think we've
other
had any
leases have
problems.
that?
I'm sorry.
No,
Our other leases do not have
no,
that?
no, that's why I wanted to point it out, because I did put something in there.
It's a nuisance clause, so somebody doesn't say, oh, I got a little crack on the door, it's this big, I want you to come fix it.
I mean, my understanding is the tenant has not done that in the past,
No,
so,
no,
yeah,
we've
so.
been a very good.
But I just put it in there for consideration. If you
Yeah.
want, I can easily delete it.
I would leave that in for right now.
Yeah.
And I think 2,000 is reasonable. It's quite a jump, but it's a reasonable given the market.
Leave it in.
So for paragraph 6, how much would we charge?
Yeah, I have a blank there just because I needed some suggestions from the board.
$25. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest anything more than 100. Yeah, that's,
Yes.
that's,
Nothing more than that.
And what it, just, what is it again? It's,
so if there's any repairs that are the tenant is required to do, well, any repairs that the landlord's required to do, the first small nominal amount would come from the tenant. And again, that's because it sometimes will help the
so
tenant.
if we put in that it's gonna be $100 that they would be responsible for. If they do something and break a slider door window and it's $700 to fix.
If it was from their near negligence and use, they have to pay for it anyways.
Okay.
So that's not what we're talking
Okay,
about. We're
all right.
talking about calling for every
Yeah.
small thing.
Okay,
So
good.
for all non-structural repairs, so I think this is the residence that comes with the screen, the vents for replacement. As
Are you
an
talking about
example.
windows?
Non-structural repairs.
He's talking, Dennis, what, non-structural repairs are,
I'm trying to come up with an
Yeah.
example.
well,
of
it's
what-
like, these are smaller things that aren't gonna be.
Right, like these tenants have come to us before and said, these vents need to be replaced, or these, what are they, the filters, the filters. So
Well, no, yeah, that would be something
they would have to
that we
cover
would-
it up to $100?
Not on that.
Yeah, or not. You can have it out of your lease. It's just an option.
I just, then it becomes this cat
that-
and mouse game of who pays for what. I
Right.
mean, it's just, I don't don't
The-
like that.
This has been a
the problem
pretty
that I
good
see with
tenant
what-
so far, for the most part, I think.
Dennis, in a lease or a rent, isn't there standard items that the owner would be responsible? One would be for cleaning vents.
Yeah, so we have the section.
Yeah, a lot of that's
So there's
listed
a
in the
lot that
actual.
we would be responsible for, but this is, if they incur damage that, and it's minor, you know, something smaller, then they would have to pay for it, you know. I don't know.
So the
don't
lease
think
as
it's-
it reads now is, said maintenance shall include but not be limited to leaf raking of the lawn, snow plowing, or shoveling, maintenance and repair of any heating or cooling system, servicing the residence, window repair and or replacement. So it's basically, ordinary care is on the tenant, any structurals on the landlord, that's pretty
Okay.
common. I mean, you don't expect the tenant to fix a roof if it's broken.
No, but if
Yeah.
they knock a hole painting up, that's their
Yeah.
responsibility
Right.
And
to
you have
fix
to
that.
re-sheet rock it and paint it.
Right.
So leave paragraph 6 in and keep it at $100, or take
Yeah.
paragraph 6 out?
I would, I mean, I could,
I could see going either way.
I would leave it in.
I'm gonna make a motion to take out paragraph 6.
I'll second that.
No, he said they're not in the other leases.
I think, are they? I'm sorry, maybe misunderstood. I didn't know the dollar amount. They are in the other leases.
We have to keep them, okay, so the other, is that,
I have the Obtuse Hill, Rochelle Hodson for the record, my lease director, I have the Obtuse Hill Road lease up on my computer screen, and it's in there.
Yeah, and then what's the
$100.
dollar amounts?
100?
100, right?
Okay.
Oh, then why are we even
Well-
having this?
I mean, again,
Let me
just because it's in
rescind
that
the
old one,
motion.
if you'd like to not do it, you can remove it, and then next time that the Obtuse Hill is up for renewal, take it out. You know, or you can actually amend that lease, you know, whenever you want. You could just say, forget it, I'm not gonna do it. So it's up to you.
Okay, well, I'd like to keep all the rental property leases aligned, so that there's no preferential treatment. I'm gonna rescind the previous motion.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Sorry, it wasn't very clear. We have so many rental properties, it's hard to keep it all straight. So, I gotta add to the motion, or,
$200.
let's go back to the first motion, and we'll do this after.
I would just read the first motion, and
I did,
He
he
proposed-
seconded it,
right.
but we didn't put a start date of the rent effective the 15th of February 2020.
Yep.
Do we have 30-day
That's not right.
notification on rent changes?
It would be the
Or anything? No?
16th
Okay.
of February.
So they have half a month. Yeah, half a month, okay.
It expires on the 15th of this month, so it would have to start the 16th of 2023.
Right.
All right, so I'll just restate the motion. Recommended motion that the selectmen approve the 43 Silver Mine Road residential lease agreement that expires on the 15th of February 2023 and ends on the 14th of February 2024 for a one-year term with a current rent of $17.50 and a proposed rent of $2,000 to begin on February 16th, 2023. Is that
I'll
enough
second that
notice?
motion.
Wait, is that enough notice for the?
Yeah.
Any discussion on that motion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I'd like to make a motion that we charge the tenant $100 for paragraph 6 of the lease for repairs and alterations.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Well, we're not gonna charge them $100. We're going to make the first $100 of any repairs their responsibility.
Yeah, if you
Right,
just
that's
leave-
in the, you said that's in there already, right? So we don't need to discuss it, we're just gonna renew the lease as is.
Well, we
Renew
don't
it.
have a dollar amount.
Oh, then we'll leave it at 100.
Right.
Okay. So your motion is to make it $100?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Good with the lease. Moving on to appointments. I'd like to make a motion that the selectmen approve the appointment of Laura Murphy, Director of Parks and Rec for the town of Brookfield for the term of January 17th, 2023 through February 6th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to boards and commissions, I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen appoint Shannon Riley, a Democrat, as regular member of Board of Assessment Appeals for the term of February 6th, 2023, being today. Is today? Yeah, through the 12th or December 1st, 2025, as recommended by the Democratic Town Committee.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen appoint Ashley Shute Bell, a Democrat, as regular member on the Conservation Commission for term of February 6, 2023 through the 2nd of February 2026, as recommended by the Democratic Town Committee.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
None.
Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make the recommendation that the selectmen, I'd like to make a motion that the selectmen reappoint the following members of the Energy Advisory Board for the term of February 6, 2023 through February 1st, 2027. Those members being Henry Pietras, a Democrat, as a regular member and the chair, and Joanne Cafayero, a Democrat, as a regular member.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen reappoint the following members of the Youth Commission for the term of February 6, 2023 through February 1st, 2027,
I'll second that.
You're gonna name them first, right?
to include Marnie
Oh.
McNiff, a Republican, as a regular member and the chair, and Sean Turner, a Democrat, a regular member.
I'll second that. Oh, sorry, you already said you would.
Any discussion?
No.
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, the Water Pollution Control Authority, I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen appoint Matthew Brown, unaffiliated, from alternate to regular member for a term of 7 February 2022 through 2 February 2026.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in
None.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to adjourn.
No, I got a quick. I know that we have talked to the police and people have come about speeding in town. And I think we need to readdress this because there was another very serious accident in front of Hagerty's. That stretch from, if you're going from the library up and around that turn to where Hagerty's is crazy, the speed people are going there. And they had to get the jaws of life or what it is to get one of the people out.
There was also a really bad accident by John's Best.
So I know that our police have kind of tried to steer us away from speed bumps or whatever, but we need to do something.
It's a state road. That's a state road. Anything we'd want to do.
What do you want to do?
Well, then we need to go to the state and say, this is a dangerous area, we would like to
We can
either.
do that.
Pardon me?
We can do that, but good
And it
luck
could
getting
either
them
be
to do
that,
anything
and one
about
other
it.
thing that I know has been very, in another town, what they have is they have the speed signs, it's a speed sign that tells you how fast you're going, but there's a red and blue light on top of it, and if you are over the speed limit, they blink. Now, there's no police involved, there's anything, but
We have those that we move around town.
but they don't have the blue and the red light.
No, they don't.
And this person told me that they are very effective because it will make you slow down. But we need to do something. If it's go to the state, then we have to go to the state.
In the package, just put it in the package.
It's very bad. We actually had somebody plow through our front yard,
Yeah,
smash into the stone wall.
yeah. It's terrible, and it's in a lot of places. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just want to make mention.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Wow. I beg your pardon.